My people of this country and we're under attack. They banning us, they cancel us for speaking the facts. If you man enough.
This is the Patriots Prayer Podcast. It's a tremendous show, one of the greatest shows in the history of the world.
This is Bryson Gray, and you are watching the Patriots Prayer.
PPN, you're doing the right thing.
On the Patriots Prayer Network. Thank you all.
PPN on your bumper.
I'm Tom McDonald. This is the Patriot Prayers Network. Check it out. Lots of good TV. Lots of cool people. Tune in. Keep it locked.
I'm the white boy with the middle fingers in the air, dog. We don't give a what. 100 white boys gonna hold me down anywhere, dog. We think that you suck. My Patriots, the craziest. They ain't afraid of breaking fists on faces. If you really want a taste of this, no safety tip. The same mistake and spray the clip. I pray you miss, cause if you don't, they gon' go wacko. Automatic gun smoke like tobacco. Never hit a lady, but it's pretty hard to tell if you're a girl or a they, them. There's these, that, those. I ain't never gonna take a knee for the anthem. Smack them. I don't give a damn, can't stand them. Gang full of randoms. Fan with a handgun. Run up in your mansion, leave it all abandoned. I was raised to be brave to the grave. United States, we love the country that they've been corrupting. Go woke and go broker if you ain't obeyed. My people of this country and we're under attack. They banning us, they cancel us for speaking the facts. If you man enough, come stand with us, take USA back. And every time we pull up, all you're gonna see is American flags. American flags. American flags. And every time we pull up, all you...
Well, I hope everyone is having a great weekend. I got here with me Tim Hale, J6er, if I'm not mistaken, comedian too, right?
I try. I don't like to brag, but I will.
Yeah. Okay. But so everybody has been seeing, and we're going to be talking about this in depth. And I want to go into this as deep as possible so people understand and come away from this no longer being able to plead ignorance, because a lot of people plead ignorance, and I'm in regards to Jay Klang. I didn't know. I had to see for myself, whatever the case may be. But creators are standing next to him. People are standing next to him for clout, clicks, likes, follows, whatever's the most inflammatory thing someone can do. Running down Dearborn, Michigan with a pig in your hand, burning a Quran, kicking over a nice statue, a paid provocateur, a psyop, Fed Shady, as you called him. I love that, by the way. But let's go through the tale that is Jay Klang and tell people what they need to know.
Sure. Well, it all started one stormy night in 1995 when
okay, started that one stormy night. Okay.
I don't know the intricate details of his conception, right. Excuse me. But yeah, so I mean, this guy was my cellmate after January 6th. He's got a long history that's easy to find, and it's weird that people like the supposed anti-J6, the sedition hunter people who hunted us down, or even the prosecutors or whatever, the mainstream media, nobody has actually looked into his actual background. And that's the kind of the first red flag for me, is like he's got
willful ignorance, right? Willful ignorance, because we can find it in 2 seconds.
Right. All it took was, I mean, granted, I have like it's close to an eidetic memory, I guess. I spoke very little around him because I didn't trust him, but I listened a lot, and he ran his mouth a little too much. And I internalized a lot of details. And as soon as I get out of prison, I'm like, and hence, and I'm able to find all this stuff. He's been scamming people for 10 years. No, he's got charges that were open against him on January 6th itself. Even his lawyer filed a bond motion for him in the middle of 2021. He had 2 open cases, one out of Ohio, one out of New York. Nobody seemed to care. So he's got a background to him, and I guess you could say, I mean, I've gotten this from quite a few people. I guess I'm like the regional expert on Lang now. I'm basically, if he's P. Diddy, I'm 50 Cent. That's how it's like that. It's like that. That's real stuff. So yeah, he's been a charlatan his entire life, from his teenage years into his early adulthood. He's been a junkie and a criminal and whatever. People have pasts, but he's never changed. He's an unrepentant and unreformed individual.
And let me put this out there so no one thinks that I'm saying I have a criminal history too. I did 5 years in a maximum security prison. However, I actually do love my country. I actually have some ethics. I have, an actual love for what I do. And I platform patriots all the time just because, I think I even offered you a platform at once. Right. So, I mean, just because that's what we do here. We want the truth to be told. We want people to understand the reality of the situation, which is our country is in extreme danger right now from within. And there is a right that is an alt-right similar to what we're looking at with the left. And it's not so alt with the left anymore. It's like the left, period. That's what they are. But these people, Jake Lang and they know exactly what they're doing. They're paid provocateurs. He goes to the event that day, J6. He's swinging bats. He's saying Roseanne Boylan died in his arms. He was trying to protect her, and the video doesn't show that at all. It just seems a lot of weird things. Peter Byrne gives him like $184,000.
Patrick Byrne. Patrick Byrne.
Thank you, Patrick Byrne. Yeah,
the FBI and CIA informant. Yeah.
Yeah, and then who goes and tries to fix his own image by putting out some Christian movie about him having some conversion and that sort of thing. But in all of this, I don't hear anyone ever come out and say anything bad or disown or disavow Jake Lang. I've seen people play both sides of the issue, say, I disagree with Jake Lang, but I'm going to cover Jake Lang, and I'm going to walk down the street and laugh with Jake Lang, and Jake Lang and I will take selfies, but I'm not like Jake Lang. Just, hey, follow me, like me, share my stuff, It's similar to like, if you go by those same rules, Don Lemon wouldn't be guilty of anything. And that's what I see.
Yeah, I think I have a unique perspective too. Like I understand, like you're right, and there are all these we can call them grifters, but for lack of a better term, we'll call them independent journalists, quote unquote. All these people who follow him around the country doing for all these psyops. I know there are several main ones. But I know from the J6 side, I see this a lot too, because he's known to pay people off. He's known to bribe people to either be his friends or to be his stand-ins. He pays people off, and then like I have moles everywhere. This game has turned into a giant like counter.
He tried that with us early on. And I think that's how you and I got in touch, because he was trying to pull us into that network. And thank God I have some decent folks around me who told me, dude, you don't want to mess with that guy. You need to talk to these people.
Yeah,
we both know who that is. I don't want to say his name, but we both know who that is. He's a pretty big creator in his own right, and that led me to you, Eric Clark, and many other people in the X. I would say live, but I'm stuck on TikTok stuff spaces, where this is a well-known fact. I was there last year. We were both at CPAC last year. Yeah. Which I was surprised you recognized me. I look like the average white guy. So I was like, how the hell you picked me out of a crowd? I'll never know.
You're that guy. How could I not? That's a whole other thing too. It's like the guy gets kicked out for whatever reason. It's still unclear, but there were plenty of us. There were dozens of J6ers there, but he has to, again.
I think that's the reason why.
Yeah, there's just plenty of clout and pretending to be a victim. And that's what all this is is just pretend to be a victim. It's like that, the meme of the person riding the bike and they put a stick in their own wheel, they fall over and they're like, blank. Blank.
Yeah, you're a victim in a problem that you created.
Right.
Yeah.
And I
know people like that in general.
I get screenshots all the time from J6ers who were like, they're basically like double agents and stuff. And he's got this cabal of people who, because they've gotten money from him, they are incapable of speaking out publicly about it. So it's just like there's a lot more going on than meets the eye with Lang. But there's one thing you'll notice is that more or less none of us have anything to do with him for a reason, because we're aware of what he's really about. The public doesn't realize that though, and he's used basically as a sword to continue smearing J6ers, also the administration, and basically the entire right wing, I guess. Yeah. There's nothing authentic about him, though. He's not right wing, by the way. It just, as a primer,
no, not at all.
He's an anarchist, a literal anarchist. He didn't vote for Trump. He has no right wing beliefs about anything. And even though he goes out being a provocateur about Islam or race or whatever.
Well, he was bitching about APEC the other day in front of the APEC building, drops the N-bomb in the middle of the street, and then there's a picture of him wearing a yarmulke kissing the Wailing Wall, and then there's a rumor, and you can substantiate this or not, you probably know more than anybody else. Is his sister in the IDF?
Yeah, his sister was a pilot in the Israeli Air Force. And it's funny, and again, like, I'm not trying to, like,
both sides of every coin, bro. He's like hanging out with Muslims in prison, and he's fighting them on the street, running down the street with pigs and bacon. And
I want to say,
does he stand for anything?
Well, he I guess I don't want to, like, I'm not trying to, like, attack his family, though I have some issues with his parents for a few reasons, but, like,
Samantha, we're talking about Jake Lang. Sorry.
No, that's fine. His sister on one of her, like, old Facebook screenshots was talking about how Israel is their home, like their homeland or whatever, which, like, I'm not going to get into dual loyalty sort of things here, but like, it's a high likelihood they're dual citizens. His sister's literally served at a foreign military. And when we were cellmates, and again, you can think whatever you want, but if you're an anarchist and you believe in open borders, which Lang said he did, he believed in a lot of weird things. He believed that America shouldn't have borders, all drugs should be legalized, all prostitution should be legalized. He was a little anarchist, but then he said that America has to get.
I would consider that more libertarian than anarchist.
He was talking about abolishing. He wanted to abolish nation states, though. He said he said that everything in the world should be controlled by tech companies like Facebook, and he wanted to use apps to control elections.
So this is what Palantir is doing right now. This is the move with all of the data centers and Peter Thiel and these people, is to put your medical and everything in the hands of AI and away from doctors to be able to make these decisions. This is why I was never a fan of the big beautiful bill. I do support Trump when there's something valid to support, and when there's not, I'm not a loyalist of any kind. I'm a values over anything guy. If you do say something I agree with, I'll agree with that. If you say the next thing I disagree with, I'll disagree with it. But to follow someone blindly, no matter what they do or say, that's just, you're both going to fall in the same hole.
Yeah. I mean, and from J6ers, there's still plenty of criticism about, like, again, restitution or the lack of exposure of who the FBI agents were who set us up and all that. But the questions that J6ers have, like anything, that's going to get swept under the rug because it's politically inconvenient, because look who this J6er is who's getting all this attention, making us all look like terrorists or provocateurs or pedophiles.
Take us back to that day, though. Take us back to J6. Were you in line of sight of him on that day, or when did you first come across him?
I was nowhere near him. I was on the west side of the Capitol, that's the side most people showed up at from the speech. But I ended up going inside the Capitol building. I wandered around for about 40 minutes and then I left. He went towards another extreme of the west side. He went to what's called the Lower West Terrace Tunnel. And this is basically it's not really a tunnel. It's like a narrow, archway.
I'm very familiar with it.
Yeah. So this is where he's swinging on the, cops with the baseball bat or whatever. Yeah. He goes there trying to break doors down and fight cops for 3 hours. Never interact with him, but he gets arrested basically within a day of me getting arrested. So I was arrested the 15th January.
I'm sorry. Did he raise the funds prior to J6? Because on paper, it looks that way. It looks like the money was received before he went, not after he went. But I can't say that for sure.
I'm not sure which funds, because he's had like a million different fundraisers. He's literally embezzled. I don't know if embezzlement's the right word, but he's raised millions of dollars off January 6th grifts alone. I always say that not the gateway pundit, well, that too, but the
gateway pundit is a no-go. Ashley Powell was trying to set people up and questioning and things like that. And we've had experience with Ashley before. And I talked to a former undercover reporter journalist for Project Veritas, no longer with them. But he point blank told me that Ashley had some encounter with the FBI. And then as a result, she had a damn near mental breakdown, which happens when you're forced to do things that you normally wouldn't do, for people who probably got you the same way those feds got, what's his name? Ray Epps. Yeah. The same way. Because it was that same reporter who told me about Ray Epps and the charges, the despicable charges against him and his own daughter months prior. But the guy was out on January the 6th, they were telling everybody to go inside, but no charges except for a misdemeanor a year later with no time served.
Oh, Mr. Reps, we're so sorry we did this to you. Is there anything else we could do? Maybe an old fashioned in the lobby? But the Gateway Pundit promoted, I ended up getting a gig there, a short-term contract writing. I had a contract with them writing articles so I could get the truth out about real J6ers and maybe raise funds for their families, putting exculpatory evidence out there, real journalism. And I got kicked to the curb because people were complaining I was talking about informants too much. So you can put you can connect the dots there. Gateway Pundit is it was basically acting as a propaganda, like a mouthpiece for all the rats of J6, making it look like they were heroes. And then that's connected to Give, Send, Go, which is a good platform. It's helpful, but for J6 in particular, Give, Send, Go, I like to say it became the Cayman Islands for J6 grifting. And the guy has had over half a dozen different Give, Send, Goes that he's had over the years, raking in millions of dollars. So
I know the Napalm USA website sometime within the last week or so was taken down.
Yeah, you can still find the archived name, and keep in mind he's used two different names for it. But yeah, it's still archived. So that's done, I guess. But you still got all the different ones. So if you go through that article I wrote, I was thorough. I was thorough with all the different ones he has, and you can find screenshots so that people will make.
Well, I'm on your page. So if at all during the course of this you got something you want me to bring up and show, I'm on your page. Just tell me what I'm looking for. We can bring it up. But so the first time you run into this guy's obviously is in the clink.
Yeah. So under the custody of the marshals, we get moved around, under what they call it diesel therapy. It's where the marshals bounce you around the country under Bureau of Prisons authority and stuff like that.
And you're in the feds. And I want to establish this question first before we go any further for something I want to talk about later.
I did not see Nicolas Cage on Con Air, just so we're clear.
No, but when you are moved from facility to facility, you get one of these. Just like this, exactly this, in fact. And I just don't want to show my BOP number. But you get that essentially. Legal paperwork, anything with your name stitched on it that belongs to you. But you're not carrying a cell phone or a SIM card from facility to facility. You care to tell people why? I know that for sure. Don't you get scanned on the way in?
You get a lot of that. You'll get you'll get searched, to put it kindly. Yeah, and it's the Bureau of Prisons has very clearly rules about it's contraband. It's plain and simple. It's contraband. There's also the aspect of you can catch a street charge because it's a threat to the security.
It's an escape charge. If you have a cell phone in prison, it's an automatic escape charge. It adds depending on where you're at state, it adds 5 years to your sentence.
Yeah. Now keep in mind too, contraband exists. That's reality. And the marshals do this thing where they contract out. So not every facility we're held in is a federal facility. Sometimes they'll hold us in local places like Northern Neck, Virginia. It's a local jail, but it's still all the same. The Bureau of Prisons and these jails, they usually have, very clear rules about that kind of thing. They have jail phones for a reason. They want you to use those so they can listen to everything you're saying. Is that
so
good?
How likely is it? Because you were there, how likely is it that someone had the same cell phone with the same phone number for 4 years and was able to operate a podcast from inside of his cell using his real name and no problems?
It's conceivable in the sense that giant ants with top hats dancing is conceivable. I can conceive of it. Old Norm Macdonald. Here's the thing. Not only is he a J6 defendant, so there are points where we can be as charitable as possible. There are points where he was in a local jail. It might have been a little more. There would have been more leeway. Like when we were in the DC jail itself wasn't always a hard ass about that, but because it was technically still a local jail. But they were monitoring us. There's no doubt about that. And we did face retaliation sometimes when people did interviews. But when he's when he gets moved up to an actual prison facility up north, not only are you have what's called an intense monitoring program. So the J6ers had this thing, and basically they're not just listening to your phone calls, they're also looking for you on the internet. They're looking for any media mentions of you. He's one of the most high-profile J6ers, and he's intentionally made it that way for years. So when you're constantly online and people are making note of this, and you're talking about starting a militia in a federal prison, there's no way they didn't know about it. So that means they were allowing it.
They were allowing it. That was my point, essentially, is that you're not doing this unless somebody somewhere is saying, let it happen.
And I don't know about you. I'll speak from my own experience. I went to a low security prison on Fort Dix.
Never been to one of those.
And even there, if you get caught with a phone, nobody wants to give you another phone after that because you bring heat to everybody else. That's a bad customer.
Car wreck, as they say.
Yeah. And they're going to be looking for you after they catch you the first time. They're not going to give you a million different opportunities to keep doing it. So no, absolutely not. It makes no sense. Nobody would put up with that. Inmates or prison, officials. Makes no sense. And then, his defenders, his sycophants, they'll say things like, oh, well, it was bounced through. Because one thing that he would often do is he would do three-way calls, like bounce calls through a third party in the Philippines or whatever. It's like, oh yeah, the Bureau of Prisons loves it when federal inmates circumvent their phone policies by incorporating a country in East Asia into the mix. That's not an even greater risk to the security of the facility.
It's an automatic write-up just to do a three-way call from inside of a prison cell. I mean, from inside on a prison phone, it's an automatic
phone. Yeah. Then you bring in a contraband phone, and then you're also live streaming, and you're going through a third country. Like, how about I'm not that dumb? I look a little dumb, maybe even very dumb, but I promise you, I'm not dumb enough to believe that.
Yeah, I happen to know that because unfortunately, I've received the write-up. I know, and it's calling the wife to call the daughter. That sort of thing, and innocent enough, but I wasn't on it watch.
Yeah, it could be completely innocuous. You could just be like, oh, friends on the phone, they want to talk to you. Like, even if you didn't think about it beforehand, they'll throw you in the shoe or the hole, whatever you want to call it. You're not special. You're not special. And so they do that to anybody. Why the hell wouldn't they do that to one of the most high profile people they have around? Especially someone, by the way, who, whether you think that this moron is a threat to a jail's or prison's security, keep in mind, his allegations were that he was assaulting cops for 3 hours and rioting, and he's a quote insurrectionist. Well, if that's true,
those aren't allegations. I've seen him do it.
Well, I don't want to be controversial.
I've seen to him.
But see that, but like that's the thing. There's a reason. Like I said, it's not just that they're monitoring our official phone calls. They're deliberately looking for J6ers in particular. They had.
Well, you guys weren't treated the best, and that's for sure. You weren't treated the best. Your civil rights were violated. You didn't have access to the information you needed to defend yourself. But he made it out like he was a political prisoner for 4 years, and he was denied a trial when it really turns out he was postponing his own court date again and again and again and again, and then crying that they were doing it when it was actually him doing it.
100%. I keep in mind, like that was happening like the first year. Like I invoked my speedy trial rights repeatedly. They refused to give me evidence. They scheduled me for a trial. I was supposed to be the first trial in November of 21. And then my judge just canceled it because the prosecution said that they didn't want to go through with it. And they made up an excuse like COVID or whatever. So it got rescheduled all the way to April or into spring of 22. So, but it took me, even though I kept invoking my right to a speedy trial, and I eventually did get it. It took 16 months.
That's crazy. It's only supposed to be 180 days to speedy trial.
70 days in DC. The Speedy Trial Act in DC says if you invoke your speedy trial rights, it's 70 days. And it took me a year and a half. But again,
I'm surprised your case didn't get dismissed, but with prejudice for them not giving you your trial.
What they do, and the judges just co-sign what the prosecutors say, even though they act like they're considering it both sides. They just say, well, it's in the interest of justice. So if they just say, I'm going to waive the speedy trial clock in the interest of justice, they can just do that. And another thing they do, because prosecutors are dirtbag, what they'll do is they'll supersede your indictment. Like they'll change the phrasing in an allegation or something, and now it's a new indictment. And you'll go in facing 5 years. By the time you hit the courtroom, you're facing 90, and it's like conspiracy to commit
and it just all adds up, and they're all like, every conspiracy too is like 10, 15 years a piece, depending on how they word it. And then they're like, oh, we're going to give you a plea deal for 5 years. And you're like, oh, that's so much better than the 80 I was facing. I'll take it.
Yeah. And they'll keep you in solitary, or they'll keep just deny you bail and try to basically break your soul into taking it. But here's the thing. Let's say the speedy trial clock worked the way it's supposed to. Okay. If it's 70 days, or even if it's a different number, is if you get close to that number, if they re-indict you or supersede your indictment, that resets the clock. So they can just keep doing that. And that's what they did with me. They superseded my indictment before my trial was supposed to come up. So it reset my clock. But again, I just want to be clear. I did get a trial. It was unfair. There were Brady violations. They mistreated me. I had civil rights violations in the jail, but it took me 16 months. I got the trial. As you said, if you go through his actual like court filings, he was requesting extensions. So there's no one who was denied a trial for 4 years. If they did, it was because they were postponing it. And hey, some people probably should have, because if there is an argument to be made, like, hey, if they're withholding my evidence and I know I'm not going to get a fair trial, maybe
then why would I go to trial and lose in the interim? Yeah, I get it.
I'll hedge my bets. And that's fine, but just say that's what you're doing.
That's your story. Then that's the one that you stick with, and you don't go, oh, I'm a political prisoner who was denied a trial, while meanwhile you're the one denying your own trial. I want to play a clip real quick. This happened in New York, and this is the incident in New York.
They're bunch of goat raping pedophiles.
So he's pretend raping a goat. Pretend raping a goat while folks are waving a flag, smiling. But they were just being reporters covering the incident. That's.
To be fair, at first I thought that was his fiance, so I couldn't tell the difference at first until I saw the hair difference. It was a different color hair. I think the goat had different hair dye. And I've told you this, off air, but just for people who don't know, part of maybe he is Islamophobic or whatever stupid term you want to use, but in jail, his best and really the only friend he had was a man named Peter Steger. Peter Steger was a Mexican-American. He was a truck driver from Arkansas, good dude. He converted to Islam when we were locked up, and he was always loyal to Jake. He's one of the few people who actually consistently stood up for Jake.
I ran into him last year at CPAC, and we had a little conversation, a little disagreement. I wouldn't call it like an argument, but like I just told him your loyalties are in the wrong place. Yeah.
And I mean, and for just to be fair, I'm not attacking Steger. Everybody, like, he knows where everybody stands on it, and we all know where he stands, but it's strange that, like,
Jake evidently gave him money and a place to stay and helped him and whatever else. Yeah.
But here's this guy, the one guy who's like was loyal to him throughout the whole time they were locked up together, and never said a bad word about him in there. And here he is basically attacking his. And again, like, I don't like Islam. I don't agree with it, but it just
no, it just goes to show his hypocrisy, though. His hypocrisy is definitely
Steger. Like, you have so many people that Lang has in the J6 side who he's pretended to be friends with or allies with, and a lot of them took plea deals. A lot of people took plea deals with J6. I don't care. I've never judged anyone for that. I'm not a father, not a husband. A lot of people had their reasons for it. Lang has made videos, despite the fact he never went to trial and he's lied about it, of his reasoning. He's gone out and attacked J6ers who took plea deals and called them cowards and traitors. And I'm like, your only friends took plea deals. Ronald Sandlin took a plea deal. All these guys that you surround yourself with took plea deals. They didn't go to trial. So none of this should be, everything he says and does should be taken with a grain of salt. That's basically my overall summary of his behavior and his antics. Everything he says is disingenuous, and everything he does is opportunistic and fake.
So, I mean, we see this guy with all this pretend bravado out in the streets, running down the streets, calling people N-word lovers, and I mean, just he did detestable things. He's out there in front of the APEC building yelling about APEC, and he's kissing the Wailing Wall wearing a yarmulke. And it's just like, you can't be everything, dude. I mean, everything all at once.
secret agent, man. It's funny. Even the APEC thing. It's like I had a sneaking suspicion. I'm like, I don't know all the geography of DC. Clearly, that's what got me in trouble before. But I put it in a map. I'm like, the APEC building is right next to the FBI field office in DC.
Yeah, the
I'm
Hoover
like,
building. Yeah.
any chance that he's got these independent journalists, quote unquote, who are all there, conveniently all there to film everything he does at every single place? I'm like, is there any chance this is like another psyop that's just staged to get people on watch lists if they're stupid enough to show up? I think so. Yeah, I'm gonna venture a guess. Yeah, he's Jewish. He's Jewish. He's visibly Jewish. He bragged about it, and not for nothing. Like, you can convert. Like, he says he's a Messianic Jew, but when he was in jail, he was getting kosher trays. He was mocking people for being Christians. He claimed Jesus was an invention of the Romans. He said that if you want to be a real Christian, you have to practice Rosh Hashanah or observe Rosh Hashanah. Whatever. I mean, this is all a farce. And if you know his history, again, his family's history, I mean, I don't know a lot of Christians who volunteer to go serve in the IDF. I could be wrong, but I mean, it's like he clearly
let's just knock this out right now. Anybody who says I'm a Christian, but I'm not a Zionist. First of all, Zionism doesn't equate to anti-Semitism. And the Christian community in Israel is treated like trash. I have no problem saying that. That's the reality of it. They're beaten, spit on, fought. The holy sites are trampled on and shit on by their animals. They take them there intentionally to graze, and they do all sorts of things that are not, very welcoming to people of actual Christian faith, including the settlements and I'm not holding Greta Thunberg's hand by any stretch of the imagination.
The West Bank,
like her, but truth is truth, and not that I'm the biggest Candace Owens acolyte, but she said it best: genocide is wrong, no matter who does it. Period.
He's never, and again, this is. I think it goes beyond. There's an ethnic component, religious component, or just identity component, or family component, whatever the case may be. He hated Palestinians, and he was perfectly fine with bulldozing their homes or whatever. And I brought up the whole he's an anarchist thing, but his family's tied to Israel thing. Again, not because I particularly care about that, but not even because I particularly think there's dual loyalty. But I have handwritten notes, and if you go through that article, I link to posts where I scan them. We would have these debates inside the jail. You know how like the founding fathers had the Federalist Papers, the Anti-Federalist Papers. When we were bored and we were locked in solitary, we would trade notes and stuff. And so we're trading political platforms. What do we think the future of America should be? And he writes me these notes repeatedly saying, oh, we can't cut foreign aid, Tim. We need to defend Israel. We need to give money to Israel. I'm like, I thought you're an anarchist. If you don't believe in nation states, why is Israel special? And I mean, and I think that's why, because he has an interest in Israel in particular. He's adamant that the United States owes money to Israel by virtue of it existing, even though he doesn't think America should even exist. How that works, I just think he's incoherent. But at the end of the day,
people really need to learn their history, because Israel stole their nuclear program. In fact, there was a spy in the United States that was a double agent. He handed off state secrets to Israel, and Israel wouldn't allow U.S. inspectors into their country to go inspect their nuclear facilities. And then they needed the uranium to actually make it viable. And there was a train in the United States, I believe it was in Pennsylvania, that got robbed. And then next thing you know, Israel ended up with a nuclear program. And, once somebody has a nuclear program, there's really nothing you can do, because now they got the thing. What are you going to do? This is the reason why Kim Jong-un is the rocket man. And he's kind of why we haven't attacked him, and why we had to go into Iran when we did, in my opinion, because they had already had 400 and some odd kilotons of weapons grade uranium, and they had hypersonic missiles. Put the two together, and that's a dangerous combination. But once they have the weapon, there's nothing you're going to do.
They don't even acknowledge that they have them. Everybody knows it, but it's just like, because I mean, once it happens, you might be expected to follow the non-proliferation treaty or anything like that. I mean, there are a couple countries, I think South Africa, Ukraine, they've had them in the past and they got rid of them. for various reasons.
Well, Ukraine was told to get rid of him by Obama because he was promised protection, even though they weren't a NATO country. The borders of Ukraine were yet to be defined, and in Crimea and Donbass, both said we're ethnic Russians, and as a result, the Asimov regime went in there and started taking out their own citizens. And this is a fact. This is a provable fact to anybody that actually does their homework. And we broke the agreement with Russia. I'm not taking it for Putin, but this is just history. After the wall fell between East and West Berlin, the United States made an agreement with them and said we wouldn't move NATO a step closer, and called it the red line. And yet now look at Russia and all the surrounding countries and how many of them happen to be NATO, and they're getting surrounded quick.
Yeah.
And now we're talking about admitting Ukraine into that same club,
which I full-throatedly endorse, because I am a proud imperialist pig. Long live the American Empire. But again, just to reiterate again, the him kissing the wall or whatever, like, his defense is like, well, it was my bar mitzvah family. We just went there. It was a trip. It's like kissing the Blarney Stone if you're Irish or something stupid. And I'm just like, okay, well, that's interesting. But again, I have your handwritten notes to me when we were in jail in 2021. So that's a lie. I just want to make it clear. You can believe or have loyalty or whatever, but
you got the present button on your side. Are you on your phone or are you on a computer?
I'm on a computer.
So if you're on the computer and you want to go bring those notes up, if you hit present, you can put them in. I'll bring them on the screen, because I think people need to know, need to see this for themselves. They need to understand that this is not just bluster. This guy is not who he pretends to be. And if he's not who he pretends to be, why is he going this hard? And why is he getting all of the press that he's getting continuously? Diamond and Silk, I mean, you name it. He's been on all the damn different podcasts. He's doing media rounds, and everyone close to him gets a little hand up. I question how much does your soul cost?
Yeah, well, I'll bring something up here. Let me see, share screen. Should I do that?
Yeah, you can share screen.
Alrighty. It's not working for me. What if I put the links inside the chat?
You can put if you put the link in the chat, I can grab it.
All right, that's the first one. Just to again provide some background. If you go to that, there's 4 images there. Go to the first one on the top left.
Okay, so let me bring that up.
This is an old, social media post by his mother, Sari Lang, who, by the way, again, don't want to just attack his family for no reason, but I found evidence that she's an enabler. I found old, fake reviews that his mom left on his fake social media companies and stuff, where she's leaving, Leafy Social, they've helped my company, so that it's fake. So I think she's an enabler. And he has a mama issue thing. He would have his mom send him letters in the jail with her perfume on it. Super weird, like an Oedipus complex. Just throwing that out there while I remember it.
So people don't know, Oedipus had it's a psychological deal, Freudian almost, where they say men basically want to sleep with their mom.
Yeah, and it's weird. But if you go through this post, she's posting it on his behalf, of course, his mother. I am Jake Lang, son of 2 amazing parents, brother of an Israeli Air Force medic, owner of multiple businesses. I mean, that's a very kind description of his businesses. And this second link here, this is really what I was getting at. I happened to notice that one, so I thought I'd include it, just as background. I didn't make it up. His sister's in the IDF. And there's other screenshots where you can see that, she's there in uniform, talking about how Israel's their real homeland. But in this, these are scans of, you see, this is more than one, 15, 24. These were bullet points when we're going back and forth on the political thing I told you about. We were writing, basically acting as pamphleteers and debating each other. I was arguing for a more America first centric third party, basically, because I thought the Republicans were basically controlled opposition, and they abandoned Trump and abandoned us after J6. So we're like, what use do we have for them? And one of our things was we shouldn't be giving so much foreign aid to other countries when we can't even take care of our own citizens. And she's like, whoa, what about Israel? And twice, and the second time he talks about Hong Kong, which is super weird to me because Hong Kong was given back to China. I don't know what he expects.
Yep,
I don't know what he expects America to do about Hong Kong, but whatever. Two different times he got super butthurt and demanded that America keep supporting Israel. So
well, here's the thing with just being unbiased on this particular topic, for the sake of the interview.
Yeah.
If he feels this way, and this is just me saying this about Jake Lang, if he feels this way, which is what I'm reading here, he says, I know you don't like Israel, but we have to have their backs. It's imperative. If we just take a look at Jake Lang, I just think I can type wall, and that should be enough to find it.
And to be clear, he had that video, that picture on his own account. He was bragging about how because of he has a connection to Israel, America needs. He basically was making the argument that Israel's part of Western civilization, even though it's really not. I mean, it kind of is, but
there he is, right there. So,
and that's his sister talking about. That's a sister right there. Facebook post talking about her home, Israel. So. And by the way, there are reasons people could support Israel for strategic reasons. It's basically the sixth member of the Five Eyes intelligence agency, if you want to have a geopolitical look. But it's completely dishonest for him to say that he hates Israel and Zionism and all that when that's literally all he's been about for years. So it's just covering his butt. He had this stuff on his own page. People called it out and then he deleted it. But I took screenshots beforehand and saved it. So, I mean, it's just dishonest. At the end of the day,
it's completely dishonest. Like I said, it's like he wants to be everything all at once, without a standard. And trust me, I mean, if I had the opportunity to, I'd go anywhere to interview anybody. But believe it would be an interview. I'm not hanging with you, chilling with you. We're not taking selfies, and I'm not your buddy. I'm here to interview you, and that is simply that's the way a reporter goes about it. Yeah. But if you hear what he's saying here, that just doesn't line up with what you just showed me. And I'm trying to find that video of him in front of the APEC building where he says that notorious phrase that everyone loves him for. I know that's how people see him now.
And keep in mind,
make it hard to find?
I mean, there's just so many different things. It's probably just hard to narrow it down. But even besides the slurs he was throwing, keep in mind, he was throwing literal Roman salutes. So the idea that, he's just playing white nationalist in general. He's playing neo-Nazi. He's a Jewish neo-Nazi. It's like, okay, I was a Puerto Rican neo-Nazi according to the Department of Justice. That makes sense. But he was throwing Roman salutes last year during if you remember the parade they had in DC for the military, the military parade in DC. He was going around throwing Roman salutes.
Here it is, right here.
Yeah. Every narrative. He wants to confirm every narrative about the right in America.
Go back, APEC. That's the APEC building. And then he goes on to say some disgusting things that I'm not going to play on my show, but very racist in nature. Very, very racist in nature. But that's the Jake Lang. I mean, how much was his personality aligned with that in general? You know him.
It's hard to be sure because he will, again, he's an opportunist, so he'll change he'll change his belief structure at the drop of a dime. So again, like, this is a common meme. If you ask anybody that we were locked up with, they'll confirm he would pretend to be a Jewish rabbi one week, and then he would say he was a Christian priest the next. And then at one point, if you go through that article again, he had a cult he created called the Temple of Israel, where he was this prophet and God gave him messages. And because his name,
is he losing his mind?
No, he's just a pathological liar. But his real name is Eddie. His real name is Eddie.
Don't say that, bro.
It's Edward Jacob Lang. Jake's his middle name, and he goes by Jake. But what he says is hold on, I got just so everyone realizes how insane it really is. Cult. Yeah, here we go. He straight up had a cult, and It's just I'm glad I saved all this.
So that's the Eddie
didn't,
that I seen in the writings on there, and I was wondering who Eddie was, and I was like, is he talking
yeah.
about me? Right? So I had to
Yeah, we know your
things
name,
like,
Ed. Yeah, here we go. I'm gonna send this over, and he would hand out like random. He would take like a pad of note paper, tear it up into like 30 different sheets, write the exact same message, some out of context Bible quote, and then he would hand it out to everybody, and they would like usually throw them out or flush them in the toilet because they hated them. But he would sign them as Yisrael, basically Israel, which in the Bible Jacob is called Israel.
Israel, yeah.
So he's basically saying God renamed him from Jacob to Israel or Yisrael, and he would sign all these and I scanned them. So if you pull that up, you'll literally see he puts his name in parentheses as Yisrael. That's the last link, and then. And he dates them too. So like, and you'll see he does the exact same one for the first two ones you'll see are dated to May 6th of 2021. And one is to me.
Hey, this one is quoting a Bible verse.
Yeah. One is to me. One is to Jessica Watkins, one of the Oath Keepers. And then the third one, you'll see he just gets so lazy with this. He actually ends up putting a box. You see on the third one, there's a box. Someone scratched their name off when they gave it to me because but they basically he put a box there as a placeholder for people's names. That's how inauthentic his Christianity was. He was just pick a generic Bible verse and then slap his name on it. There was one guy in there, one of his fellow charlatans. They're like, "I'm gonna save this. It's like a Babe Ruth base card. I think it might be worth a lot of money in the future." I'm like, "Okay, dude." Yeah, you see the little box there where he puts someone's name in. And if you click to the left, you'll see, go to the next one over. Exact same message as the previous one. And in the bottom right corner, he signs it Yisrael.
Yeah, Yisrael. Yeah, see it in the parentheses.
Yeah, the temple of Yisrael. We called these Lang's Lucky Fortunes because he would just start, nobody wanted to take them from him. So he would just start sliding them under people's cell doors. Collected a couple of them just for buster because again it's so stupid and ridiculous. You like imagine my PTSD. I'm like, I gotta save this. No one's gonna believe how crazy this is. It's like a sitcom. It's ridiculous. It's like I'm on the Truman Show. But this is what life was like. It's complete psyop, totally fake, inauthentic, and yeah, he practiced Kabbalah. He said he was a rabbi, but then he also said he was
practiced Kabbalah, priest. So he's a Talmud believer.
Oh yeah, he came to the cap.
Oh,
he came
wow.
to the. Dude, I don't have it right in front of me right now, but he went to the Capitol. He's like sprinkles some of. There's audio out there for him basically saying, yeah, I went there with busloads of Orthodox Jews from Brooklyn or whatever.
So people understand that people that believe in the Talmud are not only just not Christian, they are anti-Christian to the 10th degree. They believe Jesus is in hell, boiling in a pot of excrement in some circle of hell or whatever. And they believe that if I'm going to say this and I'm paraphrasing, but essentially their belief is that if the Christians and the Muslims ever get together, then they're done. So they are trying to cause this conflict between the Christians and the Muslims so that we destroy ourselves. The descendants of Esau and the modern day Edomites being the Christians or even America in some references made by their rabbis. That's telling because it kind of lends some light to exactly what he's doing.
I mean, whatever the motivation is, again, I think it goes, again, if you look through this whole history, you see that he was involved in, various scams, stalking his ex, perversions of various kinds. He has a Bureau of Prisons ID number from before January 6th. So how does that happen? Unless
you only get your BOP number doesn't change.
Yeah,
so
it follows you for life.
Yeah, it follows you for life.
Yeah. So little more going on with him. And I stand by him being a federal informant. Is he a Mossad agent? I don't think he's a Mossad. I don't think he's an agent at all. Maybe agent provocateur, but I don't think he's an agent because he's clearly stupid. If he was able to fall for that 15-year-old honeypot thing repeatedly.
Oh yeah.
Apparently.
You know what? Let's check that out real quick. You know, I kind of glanced over that for like half a second, but it's something that I think a lot of people need to understand is this lends to the character of the guy. Let's see if I can find it just by putting 15 in here. So here are the actual, I guess, screenshots of the text messages between him and the 15-year-old. You know, this is the reason I think a lot of people right now are trying to like separate themselves. I've always hated Jake Lang. It was only a week ago. I just seen you with Jake.
We were always at war with East Asia.
Yeah. What happened? So right here, let's blow this up. My eyes are terrible, so I'm going to do my best at reading it. What did your mom say? How old are you, babe? I'll ask tomorrow. I just turned 30. What's up with you? What's up? Why you up so late, young lady? Nice. And I don't know. I'll be a night owl. I might be too young for you. LOL. How old are you, baby? Unless you are under 16, I don't care. Ha ha. Holy shit, dude. Holy shit. How old is Jake?
He just turned 30. So
I tell you what, man, if that was a real girl and that wasn't a To Catch a Predator scene and I was dad, Jake's gonna need a lot more than a damn goat and a pig.
Well, yeah, he's a degenerate. I mean, look, when we were locked up, when he was my cellmate in Virginia, he would keep me up till 3 a.m. talking about how much prostitutes he slept with, bragging about betting 1,000 women, which again, I don't believe that's the number, but he might.
Any of this got to do with any of the stuff he says he believes.
Well, I have letters from guys as late as 2023 up in like Lewisburg prison, where they're like, "Yo, all he does is just brag about what a drug addict and whoremonger he was or is or whatever." He pays.
I think Dad said the same thing about him, right? Didn't Dad and him have a falling out, and Dad kind of blasted him, and
his dad eventually came out and like started going to protests in his name. But it's weird because there's an interview that came out. I could pull that up too. It was one of the first one of the first interviews that came out. The one where his dad is just like he's been in and out of trouble for 11 years. From the record online. That's what it is. Yeah, here, I'll put it in the right there. Twice in that article, his father says, he's a junkie. He has problems with substance abuse. He's also an alcoholic, blah, blah, blah. He's been in and out of trouble for 11 years, basically at that point, his entire adult life. So this isn't just, he had he'll say, I've never been in trouble with drugs. I had one thing with weed when I was a kid or something like that. It's like, no, your father begs to differ. And if you look at the bond hearing his lawyer Steve Metcalf wrote, which I believe was filed in August of 2021, he straight up says, his father refuses to put up collateral for his bail. And I can corroborate that because when Jake was my cellmate in Virginia, he would curse his father off over the phone because his dad didn't want to put up his house as collateral for bail. Yeah, and he was talking about how much he hated his father, what a X, Y, and Z he was, and so that clearly went on into the summer when the bond motion was being filed. And there were 2 open cases, like I said, against Lang at that time. One out of New York.
25-year-old Sullivan County native charged last week participating in J6 riot is a former school wrestler who dropped out of college after a year and has started a series of online businesses, including a modeling agency. Nothing weird about that. And a social media platform. Jake Lang, a 2013 graduate, Delaware Valley High School in Pike County, Pennsylvania, Base is this is a paid deal. Yeah, I guess you got to be a member.
Well, hold on. No, I thought I put the archive version of that on there. If you put it, if you drop it into archive.org, that'll populate. I thought I had updated that. That's my bad. I got to go back and update the article if that's the case.
Go to archive.org and check it out.
Yeah, it'll pull right. I hate that though. Like this is like it's from 2021. It's not like it's a new story that you got to protect. Like, ooh, we got the goods. It's like, come on. And then after that, I got a link somebody sent to me.
Page is not available on the web.
What?
That's what it says.
That's not right. Hold on. I literally just put it up. Pulled it up yesterday.
Oh, it says processing here. Let's take a look. The Wayback Machine used to be a lot easier back in the day.
Yeah, it's very finicky. Like it's like sometimes if
they
I have
keep updating it, and the more they update it, the more crazy it acts.
The more tabs. Yeah, I try that one right there. I just sent you one archive version, but I find like if I try to open 2 tabs at once with archive, they don't want to load together for whatever reason. And then after that, I have something someone sent to me. I can't vouch for everything that's in it. But
so his father, Ned, a former town Tulsa councilman who owned several businesses in Narrowsburg, declined to speak to the Times Herald Record this week, but he emailed a statement to the Weekly River Reporter, and he blamed his son's arrest on his struggle with substance abuse. Yeah, right there in his own pop's words.
Which he said began in his early teens, and if you roll down, he doubles down and says he's had a substance abuse problem, and he's been in numerous issues with law enforcement over 11 years, and it's only gotten worse.
The result of numerous issues with law enforcement over the past 11 years and has only gotten worse, as is evidenced by his most recent arrest and actions at our nation's capital. So his dad just kind of threw his ass under the bus.
Yeah, and his dad is like a Republican, like a councilman. He has connections to the New York GOP, and he's a millionaire. He's got all these businesses. He's wealthy, and his son is basically leached off of him, and he's basically a pale imitation of his father because Jake has all these fake businesses and stuff, pretending to be an entrepreneur. If you look at the last link I sent you to, there's a lot in there, but this is the source that I got for the bus thing. I've seen it in different places, but this is the only way I could basically show you right now because I don't have anything else in front of me. But this
what are we looking at here?
It's a archived collection of screenshots. Part of it has to do with the Israel connection. And again, I'm not vouching for everything in here. This person could just be anti-Semitic. Ooh. But if you scroll all the way down, you'll see the part about Jake going there with buses of I guess Hasidics or Orthodox Jews or whatever. So this isn't a conspiracy theory. It's not a slander on his family. It's a little more complicated than Lang would like to pretend.
Zach Alam, whose name comes up often, who he was with last year while we were at CPAC. He showed up in the car with an Antifa member. Hell of a patriot. He's hanging out with Antifa members. And to the best of my understanding, and correct me, is this just a rumor or is it true? Obviously, we know many people had to go through Napalm USA, join his militia in order to get any help from his legal fund. This is what I've been told. However, Zach Alam, who was there when Ashley Babbitt had her life taken, he was the one who actually busted the window.
Yeah.
He had the change of clothes and the backpack and the whole bit, as shown by the Epic Times video. Really up close. You could see it plain as day. But Zach Alam had his legal fees paid by Jake Lang, and he didn't have to go through that same process, join my militia, all that kind of stuff, which people were getting more time for, I understand, as they joined the militia. Is that a fact?
So I don't know particularly about that. I actually don't think most people joined this it went through 3 phases. If you keep scrolling, well, first off, Alam is Antifa. He confessed that to me, Jess Watkins, a bunch of us inside the DC jail. So that's not a theory. If you like, the media will act like that's not real. It is like type of firsthand experience.
Well, there he is right there in the car last year in DC. We were all in DC, and there he is with Zach Alam.
Yeah,
in
and
the
she
car
punched
riding.
him. She punched him in the face for and so I mean, like, clearly people there knew that he was a provocateur at the time, Zach Alam. Jake and him were in the hole together for a couple months after Jake's second riot that he tried to incite in the jail. So when they came back, Jake was basically trying to convince us that Zach Alam was an Antifa, that he was a Christian MAGA patriot. I searched his soul, and we're like, "Hey, you Antifa?" He's like, "Yeah." It's like, "Thanks, Jake." You know, it's just like, after he lied about Roseanne Boyland dancing on her grave, he also danced on the grave of another Trump supporter, woman who got murdered that day. So, real patriot. Yeah,
I've met Ashley Babbitt's mom. And the only thing I took away from that encounter was she just had that look in her eye of just, loss and pain and fury. I mean, she's pissed. She's extremely angry. I met her the first time at a Reawaken tour out here. And, man, she just looks like she's ready to scrap. She doesn't care.
I mean, she's rightfully so, And then this guy, Babbitt, if you keep scrolling down, you're going to see the bus thing. But Babbitt and Guy Reffitt's wife, Nicole, they would have like these vigils and stuff they do outside the jail every night. And Lang would, of course, try to co-opt that as well. And so keep in mind, you got the guy who was best friends with basically your daughter's killer. If you want, I mean, I granted Officer Byrd is responsible for pulling the trigger. They killed Babbitt, but Alam was
the circumstances that led to her death were laid right at the feet of Zach Alam. He walked straight up to the 2 police officers standing in front of that door, both of which stood a whole head taller than him. They were big dudes, and he essentially said, "Either you move out of the way, or we're going to move you."
Yeah.
Now here's where they failed. They moved, and when they moved, they were just right over the right shoulder of Ashley Babbitt, close enough to where they could have just reached out with a step or so and just grabbed her, and that would have been it. But they just stood to the side, and this coward, Michael Byrd, protecting no one because everyone had already been evacuated at that point, with no warning, no anything, just reaches out and just shoots her.
I've heard different things too. I know a guy who knows a guy, Christopher Grider, who's the guy with the Gadsden flag tied around his neck for some reason. He hands the helmet to Alam. So there's questions there, I guess. But
yeah, there was a total of 2 or 3 of them around her. She was in the one corner, and I believe it was 3, and they were all 3 kind of in sync with each other, because the one went down the stairwell right after and just changed out of what he had on.
That was Alam. Yeah, he changed his clothes before that too, in the area of the crypt where all the statues are. I was in that area at one point. It's on CCTV. He changes his clothes and he's harassing cops there. But the guy who did give him the helmet, he told the guy I was locked up with, so take it with a grain of salt, the guy who told me this from a guy, but the Grider apparently said that before Byrd shot Babbitt, the sergeant at arms went up to Officer Byrd and whispered something in his ear, and then he shoots Babbitt, and then he says, "Who's next?"
I push back on that a little bit, because I've seen that video 1,000 times, and Michael Byrd is around the corner of the wall.
Yeah.
And there's a hallway that goes straight. If you were to go straight through the door, there's a hallway that goes straight down.
Yeah.
Michael Byrd wasn't with anybody. There was a guy in a suit that walked the opposite way in the offset, but I didn't see anyone else in that video.
I can't corroborate this, because 1, I wasn't there, and 2, this is third-hand information. I have no reason to suspect that Dan Adams is lying to me. I don't know if Grider is telling the truth.
I mean, if you're standing there, you can probably see around the corner. Video can't see around the corner.
There were other guys at the end of that hall, but like you said, they were in suits and stuff like that. But some of the law enforcement there were also in suits. But I'll say this: it's interesting. There were 2 sergeant at arms that stand out to me. One took his life after J6 down the line. Another was basically resigned or basically was not there anymore after that. So
Michael Bird ends up getting a promotion to captain or lieutenant or something. And then it comes out not too long ago that he ran a child daycare center out of his home, a Leering center, for 17 years with no certifications to do so, no Yelp.
Do I hear Minneapolis? Come on down.
Yeah. I mean, that's exactly what we all think. It's the same template. There's no evidence that there were ever any kids there, but he evidently ran a daycare for 17 years.
Yeah. So as
we scroll down a little further, we get back to Alam.
And here's another thing too. The CPAC thing, even ignoring him getting kicked out, whatever, he goes on this rant right after he gets kicked out, and he's bragging. He's basically saying, "I am a Christian, but I'm a proud Jew. My sister served in the IDF." Da, 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 da. Again, I don't care.
That's where I first heard it. That's where I first heard it.
Yeah.
In fact, I first heard it right there, right before I saw you. So you were standing at the corner at the top of the Gaylord. You were right on the opposite side of the escalators, right at Media Row. We were the second table into Media Row before you got to like Newsmax and all the other guys. And everyone was yelling around, or it was just kind of traveled through there like news does. J6ers are getting kicked out. Come to find out, that's not true, because the first person I see after that is Enrique. And I walk right up to Enrique. I'm like, did you guys get thrown out? And he's like, no. And I got an entire interview with Enrique talking about that very thing. So it was him who got thrown out, and it was most likely for his own safety that it got thrown out. Because I can tell you, we were there until 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning every night. I will not do that this year. Screw that. I'm way too old. That shit hurt. But no, I mean, we were there and we saw like the J6ers. You guys had this. I don't know if you were you with the crowd that spontaneously broke out into the national anthem downstairs? Because we were upstairs at the lounge, and like all the J6ers gathered around this little spot in the Gaylord. And just somebody just jumps up on this damn wall and just starts belting out the national anthem. And so everybody started singing it, and it was kind of a neat thing. I recorded it. It was cool.
Yeah, it's funny because that goes back to my crew in January 2020. Before we got to the DC jail, we started doing that when we were in Marshall's custody. It was me, Michael Curzio, Jeffrey Sable, and Patrick McCoy III, and Lang was there. And we were singing that as we were driven around the country in like these vans or sitting on the tarmac waiting to get loaded into these trucks.
The Bluebirds.
Yeah. And we just started doing that, and it caught, and it was partly facetious because it's just like we're being prosecuted by the country that we love. It's like ironic, but it's, we started doing that, and it caught up. We started doing that permanently inside the jail, and that's where that came from. People started singing it with us at 9 o'clock every night when we were in the jail. Lang didn't know the words to it, by the way. So Lang was there.
You guys had a number one iTunes hit. Did you know this?
Yeah.
You guys, the J6ers went number one on iTunes for singing the national anthem. How's that? That is cool.
Platinum.
That's cool, bro. That's cool.
We made history, by being subversives. Ooh. But yeah, so that was a neat little part of history. So we became history in more than one way, and Trump started playing it, of course, and all that. And that was awesome. But when you scroll down, I'm sorry to
let me bring that back up.
I completely forgot about that.
No, you're good.
And I just want to be clear, I can't co-sign everything on here because I cannot confirm that Zach Alam was a Mossad agent according to this. I'm not affirming that. I don't know where that came from in particular. Maybe that LinkedIn account that looks like a LinkedIn account or a Facebook page. I don't know that on the right there. I don't.
So it says, and now I'm trying to figure out if Zachary Alam, the Antifa Mossad, I can assume what that word is, from Jake Lang's car is also the Zachary Alam from the Ernst and Amp.
I think
Young in Las Vegas. What's this about Las Vegas?
I have no idea what that's in reference to. I don't know if that's the same person. That might be reaching. I've seen different people try to accuse Zach Alam of being some foreign asset. I've never seen evidence of it at all. I know he also has a BOP number from the past because he's out of DC, and that's where before they changed the BOP system, the 509 after COVID, that's where his old BOP number is out of his DC. He's also a career criminal like Lang, so that makes sense. I don't think he's a Mossad agent. But he could be intelligence.
I think that term is thrown around so much, so often that it just kind of loses its meaning. And the next thing you know, somebody actually will be, and nobody will believe it.
Right. Crying wolf. I mean, and keep in mind, you could also, there's all kinds of, I don't know what any of this is, but I mean, I guess his sister is a leftist or whatever. I don't know, abortion or whatever, but there's a lot of gray area too. Like you could just be a junkie rat. You could be someone that was turned out because you got in trouble without being an actual agent.
I'm just trying to wrap my head around the motivations of this guy. And also, I mean, I guess the most important part, and this should be the most important part for everybody, is who's behind this? Because it's damn sure not him coming up with all this. It's not him giving himself these media runs. It's not him getting himself all of this press. It's not him. There is a hidden hand somewhere, and you don't have to be too smart to figure that out, because there's no damn way in hell he's doing it, because everyone knows who he is. Everyone knows what he is. So you can't, how do you hide in that kind of rubble when, I mean, the press can't plead ignorant. None of the social media influencers can play ignorant to who he is. They've all been told 5 minutes of research on X will yield exactly what we're talking about. So how in the hell is he remaining relevant in this way? Why do so many people think he's a damn patriot and he's doing all these good things for the United States and fighting for our country and all that kind of stuff?
Well, if you know about Mockingbird, you know that like the old school cable print media was all co-opted by the CIA decades ago. I think the internet is the same thing. I think there's a modern Mockingbird, and I think 90% of the right wing online that's viral are just intelligence assets. And I think that they just curate both the left and the right. And
there's no, I've been doing this for a while now, and we run up against the same wall all the time. Like we hit the wall, and the views are such is that we should be well beyond the wall, but the wall's there. And we have been approached by the gatekeepers of the wall, essentially saying, if you went on the other side of this, you just got to, fall in line a little bit. And
if you hit the wall, you got to kiss the wall. That's all.
Yeah, exactly. And
kiss the wall.
But the same thing I tell everybody, how much is your soul worth? Mine's not for sale. I would rather quit than to sell my soul and give up. And clout never means, that much to me personally. I think getting the message out, fighting for the right things for the right reason, the intention behind it means everything. And if I forego the intention and just go with the ends justifies the means, and I'll tell you the story once I've got the fame and they can't take it from me, that kind of outlook, those are sellouts. Anyone who does that is a damn sellout, period. And I record it, screenshot it. I said it. Anyone who trades their soul for fame, thinking once they've obtained it, then they'll be genuine because they can't take it away. I think they can take it away. I think Dave Chappelle and Kanye are perfect examples of them taking it away.
I think that, you might be familiar with this as well. Like there was this point where he was locked up, and the Gateway pundit, which again, I think is an example. When you look at the people who, when I was writing there, I was surprised by the amount of people that were also writing there that I'm like, why was this person given a platform? Like Elijah Schaefer, who I think is an FBI informant. When you see, anyway, I think that when they were promoting him over a Twitter stream once, and General Michael Flynn gets on the stream to sing "Happy Birthday" to Jake, he's it's Marilyn Monroe singing to Kennedy. I'm like, this is the weirdest thing so far.
Let's go down that rabbit hole for a second for people, because a lot of people don't understand this connection. So in December, prior to January the 6th, actually, you know what? Let's take a quick break. Because this gets really deep. This gets into Vandersteel. It gets into Flynn, Sidney Powell, Patrick Byrne. It gets pretty wild. So, guys, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back after these messages.
Heard of Q Broadcast? It's taking the world by storm. People are cutting the cord to their high cable bills and moving away from streaming services like Netflix, Hulu, and others for something better. Q Broadcast. For just $60 a month, you'll get access to every channel you could ever want, including HBO, Cinemax, and Stars. And the best part? There are no contracts, no hidden fees, and you're free to cancel anytime. With Q Broadcast, you can enjoy streaming live TV, movies, and top series on up to 5 devices at once. Whether you're at home or on the go, Q Broadcast makes sure your entertainment is always at your fingertips. Imagine being able to watch all your favorite channels from anywhere, anytime, without any restrictions. We're talking about thousands of movies, hundreds of TV series, and a huge library of live channels, all in one place. And don't forget video on demand and pay-per-view events. Those are included at no extra cost, so you'll never miss a big event again. Now, take a second and think about your current cable bill. You're probably paying anywhere between $100 and $300 every month, locked into long-term contracts and hit with surprise rate increases. With Q Broadcast, that's a thing of the past. It's just $60 a month. No contracts, no extra fees, no hidden costs, and no price hikes. Why juggle multiple subscriptions like Netflix, Hulu, and cable when Q Broadcast gives you everything you need in one convenient package? People everywhere are switching to Q Broadcast, saving money and getting more content than ever before. So, what are you waiting for? Click the link in the description and sign up for Q Broadcast today. Just $60 a month, no contracts, no hidden fees. It's time to take control of your entertainment and start streaming smarter.
So there it is, guys. Go to the only free speech streaming platform in the world, Q Broadcasting. If you go to the link in my bio, you'll have the link there. You can get it. It's actually $69 a month, and it comes with all of the premium stuff, so you don't have to get any add-ons. If you watch the NFL, HBO, Showtime, Cinemax, all of the perks, you just get that one price, and you get all the streaming services as well, and you get us and a lot more. But back to this. So this is where it starts to get extremely wild, because I remember when I was first turned on to this, I was first made privy to this. I was at an X base and I'm sitting there jaw slack on the damn floor listening to General Flynn, Sidney Powell, Peter Byrne, funding, people being moved across the country, just craziness. And it hit me. My mind was in such a swirl when I heard it the first time. I had to have it broken down to me later to get the nuts and bolts of it right. But in December, prior to the J6 thing, Sidney Powell, and correct me if I'm wrong, but Sidney Powell, Patrick Byrne, and General Flynn were all with Trump at the White House.
Yeah.
They're trying to provoke Trump into signing, at that time, the Insurrection Act. They wanted him to declare martial law. They wanted to send the electorates back to the states, and they wanted like kind of an ends justifies the means way of doing all of this. Trump refuses. I guess there was some yelling involved, and he ends up putting people out of the White House, literally kicking them out of the White House. This is the same Patrick Byrne that later turns around and gives Lang almost $200,000. Right. So you got a guy who's pushing for the Insurrection Act, trying to get Trump to sign it, trying to push for martial law, trying to, but in an ends justifies means manner, he goes and he funds the number one provocateur at J6. And that looks funny, dude. That looks extremely funny.
A lot of it looks funny because, and keep in mind, a lot of people think Flynn is like a cult hero because of the FBI thing, which I guess that was entrapment, what they tried to do to him.
Yeah, they used the Logan Act, and they kind of scooped him up before he had a chance to really get his bearings, and Obama wanted him out. Matter of fact, that was Obama's parting words to Trump is, just listen to me on this, but one particular thing, and fire Flynn. And then Pence was the one that went about getting it done, and Trump wasn't necessarily aligned with it, but he wanted to kind of appease his vice president. So he lets Flynn go.
Yeah, there's a lot of like internal stuff and different versions of stories that I don't know particularly what to believe, but I do know this. And as someone who's worked for the Department of Defense, like, look, I don't trust any three-letter agency just because I'm a patriot. In fact, I think you're obligated to question all of them. So I think the FBI could have set him up, but I also think, as a man who's trained in psychological warfare and psyops, a man who worked for the Defense Intelligence Agency, just like Ivan Reichlin, you have all these people like Pat Byrne, an FBI informant, CIA informant. A lot of this stuff reeks of an intelligence operation. I don't know so much about Sidney Powell. I've read her book. I know about her. Her book was, she actually was involved in something that affected J6ers later, when the 1512 charge, that obstruction charge we all got hit with, that goes back to the Enron scandal. She was actually a big attorney involved in those Enron cases. So it's actually,
which magically went away after 9/11. Those ones. Yeah.
So it's interesting. So I don't know all the different actors involved in this, but I do know that J6 has a lot of people connected to intelligence agencies, whether it's the military, spying, law enforcement, all these different groups, departments, agencies, bureaus, and so on. And they linger around like a bad fart. And Flynn, I'm not saying he's the devil or he's like this puppet master, but a lot of his goons in his circle were at J6, never got in trouble, and they seem like they were there once from the beginning, orchestrating stuff.
It means like the special ops guys that he travels everywhere with, the green shirt dudes with no necks, those guys.
Well, several of them have blocked me for asking questions. I get into it with Ivan Reichlin all the time too, because he's admitted basically that he's a rat. He won't just use those words, but it took years, and he finally came out and said, "Yeah, I was there as part of an operation." And I'm just like, "You're an informant." He was there with camera crews. He was recording people. He had radios and stuff with him, and he's actually listed as a defendant inside the relativity database that the DOJ provided.
Now, he said that they would not call him, and he wanted to, but they would not call him to testify in the J6 committee. Now, I've interviewed Ivan.
It's a lie. It's a blatant lie, and I know that because there's a defendant I know, and she repeatedly reached out to him and others asking them to testify, and they just refused. They know nothing. So that's a lie. He's a pathological liar. I've caught him. I've been at events with him. And actually, when we were at CPAC, we were at the Bannon display, and with the,
I was right next to it. Yeah.
He was over here, running his mouth saying, "Oh yeah, they were."
I didn't see Ivan there.
Oh, he was there. Yeah, he was saying, yeah, they were gonna. They never came after me because I threatened them and I made them scared. I'm just like, you're lying. You're registered as a defendant inside the database, just like Ray Epps was before they finally put charge on him. The difference is you didn't get the attention for it. So he was probably a confidential human source. He was there that day on the ground along with a bunch of other he was, again, Defense Intelligence Agency.
Mm-hmm. And Ivan is a retired colonel.
I've granted Green Beret. He gets more attention for the Green Beret thing. But you got to remember, the Green Berets are basically, it's like a pipeline to the CIA and all that, and all these intelligence agencies. And I say that as somebody who served. I was just a desk jockey. I was an admin, but you got to remember that, you can't just trust someone because they wear a uniform. Especially when we're talking about stuff that led to psyops, false flags, whatever you want to call it, color revolution. And I think that there were probably plenty of DOD assets deployed to the Capitol, just like CIA or FBI. And all these people, again, I realize I'm going on a huge tangent about the Flynn network, but I think they're all compromised. And they have massive social media platforms. And again, nobodies who nobody ever heard of, they get picked up and they do years behind bars. But these people, they're on bullhorns, they're advocating and stuff. They basically,
you're good. You're good. You're good.
Good. Yeah. So you have nobodies who do years behind bars. They get picked up like that. But then all these people connected to intelligence agencies, they were able to build massive social media platforms. So I think it's basically a modern day Mockingbird thing. And then the connection to Lang, and then the connection to controlled opposition news agencies like Gateway. It seems to me like it's just a massive, not just a grift network, but I think it's an operation. Well, it's just a way to control people's perception.
Mockingbird was a CIA operation that they know happened, and it happened in the 60s. They said they shut it down in the 70s, but we can clearly see evidence that it's not. I mean, when you see every network, ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox, and the like, repeating the same exact phrases, and you can put them in little boxes, and I mean, they're saying all this stuff in sync. You can obviously see that's not true. Now, with the internet, it's very easy to control the algorithm and determine what is or what is not viral, because all you got to do is have enough bots on the web to push a specific subject, and that's going to end up being what's viral. You can steer the conversation, and they know this. They know this. It's very apparent that it's not hard to do to steer the conversation or make one particular topic viral, and it's not hard to do.
No, I think that's exactly what you see. I hope I'm not breaking up right now, but yeah, that's exactly what you see with every little stunt he does. Lang, I mean, going back to the main topic, I guess, accosting a grieving father to start a race war in Texas, attacking a city that is Islamic or Arab, but that voted for Trump for the first time, like flipped
when his best friend was a Muslim.
Attacking them. Right, doing that, and then the stuff with the U-Hauls, just like Patriot Front, and it's just like all these different things are curated to go viral.
They're making a resurgence. I just seen a video they posted yesterday, Patriot Front. I thought, once they got unmasked and they were known feds, that they would just kind of disappear into the ether, but they're making a comeback. All of a sudden,
that's why I don't trust. Look, I know a lot of. This is why I never got super excited about Patel or Bongino. I don't care. Like, I don't have anything against Bongino, but like Patel in particular, I feel like he was memed into office. I feel like, and I know a lot of people were excited because these guys do podcasts. They say the right stuff. But then I do think, like, here's what did it for me. These guys go in front of like, I think it was Maria Bartiromo or whatever. They're doing these interviews.
Yeah, the Fox News reporter.
Two different times, like, they're asked, so are you going to reveal that the FBI was involved in January 6th? And they're like, well, look, I just want to be clear. There's a difference between agents and assets, which is basically your way of saying,
yes,
our rats. It was the rats. It was our informants. They did all the chaos. We had nothing.
I think it was like 200 and some odd, right? 200 and something. I forget the exact number, but they gave a number. It was a little over 200.
Though, so like, for me, I'm just like, okay, you're gonna blame your snitches, and then just basically you're not gonna do anything about the agents on the ground. We know some of the names of some of the agents that were there. They were clapping as things were breached. They were there with satellite phones. We know it was an operation. I'm not stupid, and it's just like, from as soon as that happened, I was just like, yeah, no more chances. I know exactly what this is. They promoted the guy to DC. Who was involved in hunting J6ers down to run the DC office, which is exactly what happened with the Whitmer case, the fake kidnapping.
Yeah,
thing.
I actually interviewed Eric Molitor in the Whitmer case. And Eric, I mean, if anybody ever seen Eric's case online when he just, when he exonerated this guy and he just busts out crying. I mean, you got to understand these guys, the FBI lied to everybody. The FBI said that these guys were an existing white supremacist group that they had infiltrated and found out they were going to kidnap Gretchen Whitmer. But as it turns out, the real story is nothing like that. These guys, for instance, Eric Molitor was shopping. He was just out getting groceries, and they run into this guy in a parking lot, and they're like, hey, do you want to work a security job with us? And Eric's like, sure. And then, except for the twin brothers, my understanding is nobody else in the group knew each other. And Gretchen Whitmer says, hey, I'm not going to be home at a specific date and time. So drive them by my place, then take pictures and all that kind of stuff. So they're setting the scene. They're entrapping these folks. And Eric was one of the only ones that had the wherewithal to kind of try to see it coming. He had his phone on record in his pocket. But nobody was ever trying to kidnap Gretchen Whitmer. This was all a ploy right around election time to try to garner sympathy for the Democratic Party. And the people The guys that were lucky enough at that point not to take the plea deal walked out of the courtroom whole. The sad part is some of them were scared into taking those plea deals, and knowing what we know now, I don't understand why they stayed in prison. I still don't get why Gretchen Whitmer has not been impeached, why nobody's talking about it. Even in the Trump administration currently right now, this is a big scandal. The governor of an entire state set up 14 innocent Americans to make it look like they were going to kidnap her, utilizing the FBI, and use that as a boost for re-election and to get Biden elected.
And it's a tragedy too, because like these charges were split amongst defendants, state charges and federal charges. And so let's say Trump pardons them at the federal level, then
state level still grabs them.
Yeah, just like with Tina Peters out of like Colorado.
Yep, I was going to bring Tina Peters up, but exactly right.
And for me too, like I'm all J6 and stuff like that, but these guys got set up long before us, and they're still going through this. That's a huge failure. But the guy who set that up, the reason I brought it up is like the guy in charge of the Michigan field office there, who was involved in that operation, he gets promoted to DC, and then what happens? January 6th. And then again, Pat Patel gets in this administration, one of the guys who was involved in hunting us down.
So the same guy in charge of the Fed napping for Gretchen Whitmer was the same guy in charge on January the 6th.
Yep, gets moved He gets moved to the DC office. And then this new guy, what's his name? He was involved in J6 hunts. And then Patel, I mean, I think he's gone now, but Patel puts him, he gets a promotion, and then it gets him right there again. I'm just like, well, what's going to happen? Is there going to be another J6? Because it's the same formula. You promote some guy to the DC office after a PSYOP, and then is there going to be another fake insurrection or terror plot?
Sounds a lot like what happened out here at the Route 91 deal, where the same guy gets moved to Hawaii, and then the whole fires in Hawaii thing happens. He's the same guy that was in charge here on October 1.
I've come to realize, like, it's a small world.
Yeah, coincidences are not.
People keep getting, and I feel like the feds are not just the agents who are involved in the operations, but their assets always seem to get recycled for something else. So, like, there's this chick, they call her Pam Hemphill. She's a J6.
Oh, yeah, I know Pam very, very well, dude. She pops up every time we have an event anywhere. It's weird. She's not even with a whole lot of folks. I got many videos of me just mocking this lady. But she was at the last event Maurice and I was at. We were at Idaho for, believe it or not, Hetero Awesome Fest. It's just kind of a big FU to the T communities, right? So we had Hetero Awesome Fest, and we're celebrating God's original intention for the family, one man, one woman, and their children. And we had bouncy houses and cotton candy and, you know, people singing on stage and all that. And of course, you know, Pam is right out there on the outside of the gate. And we said, hey, why don't you come in here? Like, you're more than welcome to come in here. This is not a leftist gathering. You know, we're not dangerous. You go get in the bouncy house if you want to, you know, whatever.
Get in the ball pit.
Yeah, she reminds me of one of those Code Pink weirdos, right? She's a provocateur beforehand, and then she gets arrested. Yeah, but yeah, exactly. No one changes up that much.
She was trying to entrap the Proud Boys the morning of J6, recording them, trying to get them to say things about running into the Capitol and taking the Capitol. And they were like, we're not doing that. And when the two sides, remember I told you I was on the west side of the Capitol. On the other side, there were also barriers that got breached, and conveniently, like almost the exact same time. So, you know, there was coordination there. She was one of those people on the east side.
So my first run in with her, Tim, is I was doing a podcast just like this. And I was solo in the podcast. Yeah. And I see her in the comments. And as I see her in the comments, I'm like, she's saying some weird stuff. And I was like, I tell you what, I'm going to send you a link. Why don't you come up here? And she came up, believe it or not, ballsy, bro, ballsy. I got thousands of people watching, and she comes up. I'm like, I got to give her some kind of props. I mean, I don't know if I would have done it, right? Especially if I'm in her position, if I would have did it. But I just took the next 20 minutes and really made her look terrible. It was bad. It was bad.
Thank you for your service. Yeah, I saw her in DC recently on the anniversary of J6, and she was being a provocateur there. I cursed her out. I was just straight up shouting, "You're a federal informant," and there's Capitol Police right here, and they're just like, maybe. It was actually funny, but it's like she's always, she blocked me, but she was there. The original J6, she was running. She said that she had stitches, and she was running like she was moving like a linebacker. She had to be removed by police. She was the last person there, basically, on the east side steps.
Her husband just seems to get dragged around wherever she goes. He doesn't say. I've never heard him talk. Is
he old? I mean, obviously older guy. Does he have glasses on? I think. Yes. I think he might have been the one recording for her. I don't recall. But.
Yeah, you never hear this guy speak, but he's there with her every time. I mean, he was in the house with her when I brought her on the podcast. He's in the background and that sort of. But he's never spoken. I don't even know what the guy sounds like. He just is there.
A lot of J6ers who got high profile cases. She did because she was put on the right wing media a lot because she's this J6 old lady with cancer, and they bring out the violence and stuff. And few people had the wherewithal, kind of like with the Whitmer thing, to be like, something doesn't feel right. Will Pope is one of those defendants, and he goes by Free State Will on Twitter. He's exposed more feds with J6 than I can think of, or than I can conceive of. And she sent him messages when the Patriot Front guys were going around doing their business, and she's like messaging me, she's like, "It's Patriot Front doing X, Y, and Z," and he's like, "Who is that?" And she's like, "Far right guys like the Proud Boys." And it's just like, and basically saying we're all extremists and stuff like that. We're all far right. And it's just like, this is glowing in the dark. So
yeah,
I think if you give people enough exposure, they'll reveal like what their intentions are. And I think it's kind of like a Lang thing. I don't know why she does what she does. I think she's a plant. I don't know what drove her to that.
She doesn't have a whole lot of support around her. I've seen her, every time I've seen her, she's just with her, a few gay kids and her husband, and that's it.
Well, it's kind of like Lang, where it's just like she's alienated both sides. So it's just like J6ers think she's a traitor, Trump supporters do too, but the left doesn't like her. Like this, all the Antifa, sedition hunter types, they always, trash her as well. But it's like if you just look at her history, it's like she goes back to like the Bundy Ranch thing. There's all kinds of events and
I got something lined up with him too, Clive and Bundy.
Yeah.
I just did an interview with Diego Rodriguez. He's the one that put me in touch with Amin and Clive, and we're doing that.
I think like there's like red flags here where like if you're involved with every single event thing ever, just like what you said with Lang, being all things to all people, trying to be everything, you're everywhere. If you're everywhere, like if you can play Where's Waldo with someone at every single thing, that probably means what you think it means. And I think there's a lot of plans. Unfortunately, with J6, I wouldn't be surprised if a third of all the people who were there were some sort of asset, but we don't know because unfortunately the administration, what they should have done the very beginning when they were doing the pardons, they also should have declassified how many informants and who they were. We should know their identities because with Lang, and I've been warning about this for years, if you don't get to the bottom of it now, they're just going to do it again. And
they don't want to reveal their SOPs and things like that. Then the people would actually know what we do for information and how we get it and how we actually run operations, which I believe in a large part is gets into the Epstein files and all of that as well, because how many of those operations were honeypot traps and that were ran by our intelligence agencies, which means that we were willing to use kids and that sort of thing. So, I mean, I can imagine how deep that goes. I mean, we all know they were honeypot traps. No one contests that happened. So the logical, rabbit hole you go down, if they're honeypot traps, that means we're setting people up. That means somebody's getting recorded. That means someone's getting blackmailed, and to what end, and all of that. And this is where it kind of gets gray and people don't know. And when people don't know, we fill in the blanks with conspiracy. I try my best not to go there. I comment on what I have read and what I know, but I do know they were called honeypot traps, which you can't have without some type of operation in place.
Yeah. And this is again, like I didn't even jump on the pedo trap with Lang for a few days because I'm like, did he do this to himself for exposure, or what is this really?
That's not the kind of exposure you want.
I know, but is dry humping a goat the exposure you want? You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. So I've been careful. But here's the thing. And it's just like with the Epstein thing, like you were talking about with honeypots and blackmail and this and that, I think a lot of the defendants, and I know this for a fact because some of them have admitted it to me. I think some of the defendants themselves were chomos, or they were junkies. They got pinched and they were like, all right, look, you're going to go to the Capitol. You're going to do this fake insurrection stuff. You're going to do time, but it's going to be less than if we pinched you on this other thing.
Sure.
And so Lang, maybe he has a proclivity for underage, whatever. Maybe this is something that they're just, they've been holding over his head with other stuff. I don't know. It seems like.
Well, I don't know the influencer that ran the little To Catch a Predator incident on him. I don't know him well enough to say this is kind of my understanding it's kind of his bag. This is what he does.
Yeah. I mean, and fair enough. It seems like he's also a groiper, apparently. I think I saw that on his own page where he's like, I'm an Albanian groiper or whatever. I think that whole thing with Fuentes is an operation myself. So there could be multiple layers to this. I'm not trying to put that on the show here. That's my perspective.
I get it. Listen, I don't necessarily agree or disagree with any. With Nick Fuentes, my first run in, even knowing what the hell a damn groiper was in Detroit over a year and a half, almost 2 years ago now. Maurice and I were down there. This is exactly when I started getting calls from the clink from Jake Lang, same day, in fact. And there's a bunch of guys out front with blue hats on that all say America First, and they're all wearing the same exact suit. I thought I was in an episode of The Matrix. They just had the same suit on. They're all standing across the street from the event. And I'm like, what the hell is going on here? So I found out some UFC guy that was at the event. It was a TP USA event. Had literally physically thrown Nick Fuentes from the vent, like physically threw him out. And when I say threw him out, I don't mean put him out. I mean, like in the air, like physically, like chuck this guy. And so I see them outside there. I don't know who they are. Maurice did. And he's like, I wouldn't go over there. So the first thing I do is what I do. I go over there and I'm like, what are you guys all about? What is this thing with the blue hats that say America First? Why not red ones? What's the deal? And I'm trying to get the breakdown on who these guys are. And they tell me, and I'm like, oh, you guys are just a bunch of anti-Semites. You guys are on like next level anti-Semitic, neo-Nazi style. It was crazy to me at that time. Now, keep in mind, later, Nick has said a lot of things after the fact that I'm like, turn my head a little bit. And I'm not a person that follows people, just whatever it is that you say that happens to be true.
Ideas.
And exactly. And he's said a lot of things since that time till now that has made me like, he's saying something. Now, I don't know what his whole movement is about. I don't know who's behind him. I know he still lives with mom and dad. I know he still operates out of his mom and dad's place, and he's got a very big online presence, and he's very charismatic. He's got a personality as big as the Empire State Building. I don't knock his hustle, but I don't know much else about him outside of that.
I'll say this. He's another one where I saw him in Washington, D.C. before J6. I was there were three, from what I remember, there were supposed to be like 3 Stop the Steal rallies. I missed the first one. I think that was November. I got to the second one in December, and I saw him, and he was giving a speech, and he's straight up, like, I have video of this, where he's basically saying, he's basically telling all his young impressionable supporters, I want you to behave like Antifa and BLM. I want you to be extremists, radicals, and reactionaries, and start basically rioting in the streets, because that's the only way Mitch McConnell will respect you, basically. And sure enough, the next month when J6 happens, a lot of his supporters actually get charged. He does not, even though he's on a bullhorn a second time telling people to break the law. This is
the first time I'm hearing that he was there. I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, he was in DC on January 6th, and he lies all the time because his supporters, in my opinion, his groypers are idiots.
Somebody said in the comments it's never okay to hump a goat, but
never, not even once, never.
Oh God.
But so he's there on a bullhorn near Peace Circle, which is where the first breaches happen, and he's telling his supporters, break down the barriers, disregard the police, take the Capitol. And then he later takes a photo of himself on the grounds, the Capitol grounds. So he's not just like outside the perimeter. He was on Capitol grounds, which a lot of people got misdemeanor trespassing charges for.
Some people went to prison that didn't even go in. They were just geolocating them, and then they also they utilized the Quiet Skies program, and I believe what you guys call the sedition hunters.
Yeah, the sedition hunters. Yeah, FBI snitches taking finding people with pictures of their ears and eyebrows and stuff, and it's just like this guy is again. This is what I was saying about. And again, it's just like, I'm not bashing people for not getting arrested. I don't want to give that impression. Like nobody should have been. But the fact that these guys like Fuentes, who even back then had a massive platform, he was perfectly well known. Even Baked Alaska only got a slap on the wrist, more or less. And so if you have these streamers, these right-wing, far-right personalities, they tried to portray me as a Nazi over satire that was a year old at the time.
Yeah, I remember the picture of you dressed up.
Yeah, it's just like I was a nobody. This guy is if you want to start charging people based on the narrative of far right supremacy or white supremacy, all that nonsense, you've got a guy here that you have I thought you had a huge heart on for this guy. That would fulfill every narrative. They mentioned him in bond hearings. They mentioned him in my bond hearing. So it's just like,
why was his name brought up?
Well, not my bond hearing. It was in a motion. The government was in one of the motions. The government opposed my being released on bail, and they were like, either I mentioned a phrase that Fuentes had mentioned, or I was walking through DC towards the Capitol, and on my video, because I was taking video on my phone, you see someone in the background with an AF flag, America First, his show or whatever. So they're like, oh, Nick Friend. So like, if you have, and again, his supporters got charged for being there, but he's a ringleader. And I'll say this, Enrique Tarrio, he wasn't there at all, but he got convicted.
No, matter of fact, he was in a completely different city.
He was convicted of seditious conspiracy and got 20 years. You know
why? Because he refused to make a statement against Donald Trump.
Right. But again, here's my thing. It's like, this guy wasn't there. The whole case for seditious conspiracy for the Proud Boys, as well as the Oath Keepers, is that they strung together a bunch of text messages out of context and out of chronology to make a conspiracy. Here's Fuentes on video in the most monitored city in the world, 2 different times telling people to break laws and fight the government, undermine it. That's seditious conspiracy. I'm not saying it is.
I mean, the day before, everyone, we need to go in there. That's where our enemy's at. We need to go in. That was his repeated phrase. And then he whispers into the ear of some guy. I don't know his name. You probably know his name.
Ryan Samsel. Yeah.
Okay. So he whispers in his ear, and then those guys go take the barrier down.
Yeah.
And then, later on, the left did the same damn thing. I mean, if you know who Jolly Ginger is and these guys, they went down there recording it, and they had their own little thing, and they busted through the barriers too, but they didn't get nowhere near the treatment you guys did.
And keep in mind, EPS, it didn't start there. There's CCTV and independent film and stuff like that. He did that all day. It wasn't just the night before.
It was there the day before. He was there the day before, I was told.
But even that's true. It was the night before. That's where it was he was there. People were like, fed, because you're saying we need to go in. But the day of J6, that whole morning, I know multiple people who interacted with him, and he was asking people to use bullhorns to tell them to go to the Capitol. He was walking around whispering to people saying, hey, we're going to the Capitol. And then when he was there afterward, he sent a message to his family saying, I orchestrated all of it. And then he's on video.
You're saying Ray Epps did that?
Yeah. And then he shoves there's this big Trump sign. People got felony charges for assault because there was this big Trump sign, the crowd was carrying it, and it got pushed into cops during a tussle. I don't think it was a real weapon, but they got charged for that. But Ray Epps put his hand on it as well. He never got charged for that. He got a misdemeanor.
Crazy.
And so and again, not for nothing, Fuentes to me is the same situation. And so he'll lie and he'll say, well, I wasn't leading a militia like Enrique. Yeah, but Enrique also wasn't there. You're on video. I'm not saying it is seditious conspiracy, but there's more evidence that the Groypers were involved in seditious conspiracy than the Oath Keepers or the Proud Boys.
No, this is news. I didn't know that at all.
That's basically what I'm trying to get out. And so I'm not,
because you got to admit, some of those spaces on X a lot of those guys sound like groypers that are talking about this. So I didn't even have any idea that where exactly your group stood with these groypers, because a lot of them are in those groups when I'm in those spaces.
And and not for nothing. Like I don't represent all J6ers like you. I'm an individual. I prefer ideas over people. I don't.
I interview people. So you'll see me interview people with our ideas don't align. The only difference between me and some of these other influencers is, like I said, I'm not there taking selfies with people and pretending that I'm just interviewing them while I'm riding in the car with them and going to lunch and being all happy and taking part in what they're doing. I'm here simply to get the truth of whatever the situation is, and the truth speaks for itself.
I think that there are, again, I'm an independent. I ran a union. I'm not far right, like they said. I'm an independent voter who supports Trump, but I don't believe in the left-right paradigm to begin with. So forgive me for using this term. I do think there are far-right people who were January 6th defendants.
I refer to it as the third square.
Yeah, I think they're an extreme minority among J6ers, but they're out there. I don't think they're all necessarily feds. I think some of them were probably just disaffected before J6 with COVID and the war on white people, whatever you want to call it. But there are J6ers who were groypers, and some of them have said that they think Fuentes was a fed who set them up. So I'm not going to put all their names out there without their permission. But and then one of them turned out to be an NSA employee. So it's a lot more complicated.
Following a 20-year-old?
Yeah, there's a lot of weird
crazy
stuff. There were two. So I was in the Army at the time.
Because back then Fuentes couldn't have been no more than 19 or 20.
He was young, and most of his supporters
he wasn't old enough to drink. I can tell you that. There's no way in hell.
There's a lot of weird stuff that doesn't make sense upon logical inspection. So like I was an Army reservist at the time, and I was a naval weapons contractor. I got picked up real early, and they rushed to chapter me out of the military without even a hearing. But then there were other people who were active duty at the time, not even reserve, and they were left alone for years and allowed to finish their contracts out. And in particular, there were two, I believe, Marine reservists, three of them actually, that were there. They get a slap on the wrist. One of them gets promoted from the Marine Corps to the NSA. He gets a job at the NSA after J6. So that's a little weird to me. And that tells me that there's more going on than meets the eye.
I talked to Martin. I'm sure, America Summer. I think the other one is, there's a couple of guys in that J6 group that typically are in those spaces. And sometimes I'll go listen. Sometimes I'll hop on the panel.
Yeah.
But, the continued thing that you hear is that, as much as the information is that you guys have, that it seems that nobody's willing to actually hear it. And as like they were talking to me, I was like, listen, if you got the evidence for what you're saying, I'll put you on. And so we'll see. Marty's sent me a few things. America Summer sent me a few things. But as of right now, I think we're sitting at around almost 2,300 people on this channel. I don't know how many everywhere else, and not to mention the amount of replays that we'll get back, but the story's getting out there. It's not by any means like, the reach isn't there, and this is going to be on TV as well.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is the promise of the Patriots Prayer Network. We're going to tell the truth no matter where it takes us. That's it. We're fact finders. We're patriots, and this is what we're going to do. And
they like us. They really like us.
But guys, it's in the other folks that are just like yourself. If they have a story to tell and they're not getting the traction on it they want, you got my number, dude. You got my permission.
Yeah.
Hit me up.
I encourage you to talk to as many J6s, because again, we're not a monolith.
At all. No. You're so much different than the other ones. I mean, I've talked to Lego Man. I've talked to, and I don't even recount how many J6ers that I've spoke to. Some of them are exactly like Jake Lang. They're very much the same. Like, we took it, we did it, and it was exactly what they say it was, unabashedly. And they'll talk like that. I ran into one out here at a Trump rally, a kid. He was very young, talking exactly like that. I stopped and I had to listen, and I wanted to say something, but I was like, I got my wife and my grandson with me. I don't think I want to say anything right now, but
I always say, if we are who we say we are, then we're random people who walked into a trap. So to be bragging years after about basically corroborating the insurrection narrative.
That's what they were doing. That's exactly what they were doing. That's what Jake Lang was doing too. That's exactly the same thing. Jake Lang from inside of his jail cell said, yes, we did it. Anyone who says that we didn't do it is lying. And we took the people's house, and I mean, in his own words, that's what he said.
Yeah. And then he goes on Spaces after he's pardoned. He goes on Spaces on Twitter and says that, I was down to kill N-words. Trump pardoned us for a white revolution. That's why he pardoned us. I'm like, gee, who benefits from you saying that?
Correct. Yeah. And it's the kind of shade. This is exactly who he is. This is why exactly what I tell people, why not to get involved with this guy. Don't go cover him. Don't platform him. Don't talk to him. We can't tell you how many phone calls that he's called me and sent me messages till I finally blocked him. And then, telling the truth on him, he contacts my co-host and he's all like, hey, what's up with your guy? Why is he going at me so hard? I'm not going to stop, dude.
And not for nothing. He'll burn you too, by the way. Just so it's clear, even the people who have platformed him, Jim Hoft, who, again, I have my issues with the way they handled some stuff with Lang, but he's an openly gay guy. I don't care. But Lang, after years of being platformed by Hoft and the Hoft brothers, he went out and started cursing him and calling him various kinds of slurs and stuff because he didn't get his way.
I need all the racists in country just to hate me. This way, by virtue of you hating me, everyone knows where I stand. So I'm okay with that.
I'm a hate magnet.
I didn't get into this business to be liked by everybody. That's not going to happen, right? We all know this. I mean, especially those of us that are in this very small pocket of we don't fit into anyone's particular narrative or agenda because it's all value-based. So what I agree with you on today, if you change your way tomorrow or you're doing a different thing, I'm not just going to follow you because it's you. It's got to be because you're saying or doing the right thing. And it's a little different for folks like me, because I mean, there are people on the network who I genuinely love, but we disagree with each other on certain issues, but I don't tell them what they got to think or what they have to report or any of that. And, we all have our own perspectives and our own crowds and people that we, appeal to. I seem to be just one person that's kind of more cognizant and outside looking and, squinting a little bit, like what's really going on here, before I say anything. And I try to make sure when I'm speaking that I know what the hell I'm talking about.
It's okay to disagree, man. After all, diversity is our strength.
In some ways. Yeah, in some ways. But let's digress for a second. So this guy's in prison, best buddies with a Muslim. He's out here ragging on Muslims daily, day in, day out. He's a rabbi, then he's a Christian. He's gotten money from people that were in Trump's office trying to get him to push the Insurrection Act. He forces people to go sign in this damn militia before he helps them. He's best buddies with an Antifa member. What was he like in prison outside of that? Because the way you're painting him in prison is like he was kind of ostracized.
So initially, I was standoffish, but I tried to, because he kept, again, what the narrative they had about me was. And so when he's my cellmate, he's trying to tell me about how great this, again, maybe this confirms he's had these beliefs this whole time and they were genuine, but he's trying to get me to talk about a Hitler documentary called The Greatest Story Never Told, which is, I guess, like a revisionism.
I know it.
Yeah.
I know it.
You're not going to know about it unless you go in the right circles on the internet. It's like, why are you telling me this? And I'm like, I'm not talking about this. I'm worried he has a wire, because that's how they tripped me up in the first place.
But how I know. I know about it because I'm happy to be friends with Ryan Matta, and everyone knows how Ryan is. And like I said, I'm friends with people that I disagree with on some things, and I agree with them on others, and it's okay. But it's just it's super weird. It was a huge red flag, and I'm like, and he's just like trying to get me to talk about
race mixing. I'm like, I'm Puerto Rican. I don't really look like it, I guess. But I'm like, I'm not telling you this. I'm just going to keep listening. And that's just like, we get to the DC jail. We're in solitary. It's fairly chill there. The pictures of me with my mustache come out, and he's trying to shame me on behalf of all Jews. He's trying to get me to apologize to him as like the king of all Jewish people. He starts like passive aggressively leaving Holocaust books at my cell door. He gives me a book called Milkweed. It's like a children's fictional novel about some kid in a Polish ghetto. I'm like, Jake, I was a history major. I know what the real story was with the Holocaust. Like, you could stop doing that. He just wouldn't stop. And he was trying to turn the entire jail against me over that. And then lo and behold, look who he is today. Completely inauthentic. But at the time, yeah, everybody couldn't stand him. He got us locked down on Easter weekend. He started a riot with, was it Richard Barnett, Big O or whatever. He got into an argument with a guard, I guess over a
Hold on, slow down for a second. Let's go back for a second, because being in there, when you say riot, that's a big deal, because if people don't know, it's like in prison or jail, when there's a riot, like there's nowhere to run. Everyone's fighting. It's a free for all. It's a very scary situation. And typically the way they break those things up is not painlessly. So what was this riot about?
Basically, and again, it's DC, so it's worse than any blue state. We were locked down ostensibly because of COVID. We had to wear stupid COVID masks every single day. It was, I'm not defending it. It was stupid, but this guard tells you to do something. You have to do what the guard says. Otherwise there's going to be trouble. So yeah. Barnett is near the phones. So is Lang. And Barnett gets into a dispute with the guard, and they have prior history. Like, they don't like each other. So like, whatever. I'm not even judging Barnett for that in particular, but the guard tells him, step into your cell, and he refuses. And then Lang basically, he basically exacerbates the situation by standing up. Basically, by the way, as well, this gets worse. And the guard says, everybody go to your cells, locked down, because what happens is, if the guard has to have a dispute with this one,
he wants to make sure he can watch his back. Yeah.
Yeah. And this one of the guys we were with from the beginning, Mike Curgio, he had done state time, and he already saw this coming. He started screaming, everybody go to your cells. You're going to ruin it for everybody. Lock in, because we're going to lose our recreation period. We get 1 hour a day out of our cell back then. That's it.
Were you 23 and 1?
Yeah. The whole year. Well, not the whole year. It's like, it got upgraded to 22 and whatever.
Yeah, well, by 22, you weren't allowed to have 23 and 1s for longer than 6 months by federal mandate.
Yeah, they opened it up,
because I was 23 and 1 for like damn near 8 months. So
yeah,
I kind of liked it. I didn't mind it a bit. I had a nice little TV. I'm cool.
It was interesting. Well, good job. But it was interesting, because like when it was almost always solitary, it was actually almost better for morale in a sense, because there was more camaraderie, because you didn't really know who people were. But when they opened it up, then you found out, oh, a third of the people in here are rats. So that it was interesting. But back to Lang, he's basically screaming, nobody go back to your cell, stay out of your cell. And really? The goons come in, everybody does go to their cell more or less, and then we get locked down because Lang was trying to incite stuff, and he was egging Barnett on. And Barnett, if you know him, I don't dislike Richard Barnett, the guy who put his feet up on Pelosi's desk. Like, I know
who he is.
I don't like dislike him, but he's how do I put this? He's up his own ass. Like, he really loves himself, and so like it became a bigger thing than it needed to. And I feel like Jake really instigated when he didn't need to. And so this turned into a big thing. The riot squad came into the cell. We got locked down for a week.
Officers.
Yeah. We got locked down for a week. So that was, I think it was the Friday before Easter. It was basically, what do you call it, Friday?
Now, this entire time this happens, typically riots are followed by cell searches, intensive cell searches. Did this happen?
No, we were just locked in our cell for a week. So a week goes by. We miss Easter.
Did you guys have cell searches at least on a monthly basis? Like
occasionally. I don't know the exact. I wouldn't say it was monthly, but what then ended up happening is like, yeah, they would usually target a certain people. Like if they thought that they would have hooch or whatever, it would have happened occasionally. It wasn't very frequent because they knew we didn't have any.
Because I'm just trying to figure out how he evaded and had a smartphone to run his damn podcast in there, because he had the charger, which is the hardest thing to get. And
that would have been because okay, so when that happens, that usually was when he went to the hole. when he went to the SHU, the special housing unit, the extra solitary for whatever, breaking the rules or whatever, it was a known thing. Like they would smuggle stuff, the guards would, inside the DC jail. Now
Okay.
I'm not talking though, I'm talking about DC only. That's just a jail and there's corrupt guards there or whatever. You get anything down there, drugs.
Sure, but he had that
cigarettes.
phone in Virginia as well, and another place.
So one thing I've seen his fake fiance say is that, oh, it's a Google number, so they just transferred around. Which
She tried to say it was a Google number. I was in the space, and she came in, and it was like everybody against her. I'll give it up to her for standing her ground. I mean, but she was getting her ass handed to her. But she essentially said that he keysed her to SIM card, and it was a Google Voice number that he had.
he butt chugged it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I could believe it. Because I know,
but you can't take that from place to place though, because you're going to go in and you're going to sit on that chair. They're going to strap you in that chair and they're going to scan you. And that scan is going to show anything. Because the days of like bend over cough, I mean, they still do that, but it's much more invasive than that when you're moving from facility to facility. Much more invasive than that.
Yeah. I know people, and I'm not going to name them for their sake, but like I know people who he's basically said straight up, oh, I could get a cat here if I wanted to. Like I could get a kitten here if I wanted it. Money can get you anything. So who knows? But in terms of the prisons, yeah, that's a different story. I know people also who've gotten Zoom calls or whatever over the phone. All different kinds of things. He's been doing that for long after he left the DC jail. I mean, he's been in over 20 different jails or prisons after J6. He got moved around constantly. Yeah, most of us stayed in the same spot.
I only know about 4 of them. So
yeah, we were together. Like he got obviously picked up in New York. We went to Oklahoma together. Then we went to Northern Neck, Virginia, and then DC. After that, after like a year and a half, 2 years, he kept getting into fights and staging riots and stuff. And he got bounced around all these different facilities. Even if he just gotten like, I don't know how many violations he had, and he would get moved to different facilities. He went up to, I think the one up in Brooklyn, different ones, and he would get moved around for breaking rules. And I think also for his protection, because people got tired of him very quickly, very often. He ended up getting punked out in, I don't remember which facility it was, but I know he was getting extorted quite a few different times, and he had the money for it, so good for him. So he was bounced all over the place. He was not just in DC with us forever. Eventually, he got moved out. I believe that was right after. It would have been in 2022 before I went to prison from jail. He got into a fight with Pete Schwartz, and then they were both taken to the hole, and then Jake got moved out. So he either went to Virginia or Pennsylvania, New York, up there. He went all over the place. Fight? Yeah, he got moved around.
So if you get moved after a fight, that's really sus.
Well, yeah, because so like in DC in particular, I know that when there's a fight between 2 inmates, you sign what's called a non-animosity agreement. Be like, okay, we can go back to the same unit. We've squashed the beef, whatever. It's not going to happen again. If you don't sign that, you're either I don't know if I could say, I don't want to curse on here, I guess. I don't know if this is still on TikTok, but
no, you're good. You're good. No, it's not on TikTok. You're good.
A bitch. Either you're a bitch or you're a snitch. Either there's no reason otherwise, because it's like it's a chill pod otherwise. There are a couple a couple arguments and stuff that happen in DC, but for the most part, it's like there's like a gentleman's agreement. Like, all right, you had your beef and move on. We're all patriots. It's the Patriot pod. So the Lang got moved. And then he ended up coming back later on. So when the pardons came down, when Trump got back in, he happened to be there again. So he got moved around a lot. He was all over the place. So I can't even keep track of it all. Need a whole book on that just alone.
I mean, in most of the things you're saying, I learned before he even touched down, right? So, and so when he's out and he's running around and he's doing these things, it's like I don't understand how the influencers that are out here don't know. That's the problem with it that I have.
I mean, I've talked to, not just you, like I've talked to a few people who like after the fact started questioning, like, how is he doing this? This doesn't really make sense. And I know a few people even beforehand, like, cause what he does is like, he just blows people's phones up until they just give in. That, some people he took advantage of some people's generosity. A lot of people from the beginning were like these poor souls, they're patriots, they're being persecuted, and they just wanted to help however they could. But then other people were reached out to, and they're like, who is this? What? And they're like, that makes no sense. That's the weirdest thing I've ever heard. That doesn't make any sense. And it's just like, you have that gut feeling in you for a reason. That's like mucho important. Like you have that's fight or flight. That's a gut instinct. You have it for a reason.
Well, I warned people to protect them. I told people to protect, I didn't, when I'm telling people this, or I'm saying this to an influencer, I'm telling them to protect themselves. Like, don't get caught up in this mess, because this is a stink that's going to be very hard to get off you, because if you're standing with this guy, then that's how people are going to see you. So if you're at the place with him doing the thing, whatever it is he's doing, and now all these allegations are coming out about him and the To Catch a Predator sting and all the nasty statements he's made racially and otherwise, now that's on you now, right? That jumps off of him by osmosis, and that's how people are going to see you. And
you got to remember, he's a predator, and whether the kid thing is true or not, we could just take that completely off the table. It doesn't even change the arithmetic to me. He used to stalk his ex, Nicole Colvaney, the former Miss New York. He assaulted his childhood friend because he wouldn't get involved in a bar fight or whatever. He was trying to like hit on some dude's woman or whatever in Ohio. I mean, his entire history is taking advantage of people. And I have no problem calling him a sociopath. And it's like, when we look at, like, I don't know, like Dexter or whatever, like we have like these cinematic views of psychos as like these charming, brilliant people. He's not brilliant. He's not charming. He's just wealthy, and that's it. And so if you're exposed to him long enough, you're going to see through his facade. But he's going to try to take advantage of you as much as possible. And just like I said with Hoff.
Yeah, you said exactly what Kyle Seraphin said about him right now.
Yeah,
because I asked Kyle Seraphin, because Kyle was going in on him one day, and I was like, is he a CHS or CHI, whatever the case is, whatever that acronym is. And Kyle said, no. He's just a dumb rich kid.
I think it's both, but yeah, he'll take advantage of. It's just like the saying, give an inch, he'll take a mile. He will milk any contact he has. And it's just not worth it. And at the end of the day, his antics will land you on a watch list. If you're not, and most of us probably are already, but don't need another one. It's
right. Well, I just want to take a minute here to tell my FBI person that's watching that don't like Jake Lang, not with the guy. If anything, I'm the exact opposite. Leave me alone.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I'm glad to hear some people are out here, telling the truth. And it is an inconvenient truth in a lot of ways for people to hear, because they think that the movement is very monolithic, and that anybody who dons an American flag and runs down the street with a pig is automatically fighting for the right thing. And it's just not the case. There's some people that are going to liberate you right into chains, and he happens to be one of them. And the question still remains is like, who does he work for?
It's very. It reminds me. That woman, Valentina.
Yeah, Gomez.
Whatever. It's very reminiscent to me.
I've been trying to bait that lady into an interview for at least 2.5 years, dude.
Is it not very similar?
One time, and she just backed out. And
do you not see a similarity though? Like, am I crazy for seeing like the same tactics? Just be as provocative and ridiculous as you can.
Just say, doing campaign commercials with AR-15s and stuff. Yeah, I mean,
just be a cartoon character, and that's what J6 was, and that's how a lot of people in the jail who turned out to be frauds were. Is just like, you behave. And fundamentally,
somebody's in the comments. I assume you may know who this is. Louis Nichamamat. I don't know. Is Nikamama? It says, who do you work for? Yeah.
Is it me, you, both of us? I'm
not sure. I work for me. I'm very easy to find too.
Yeah. After I got fired, I guess I'm an independent contractor. I don't know how to describe it now. But it's been, again, full disclosure, like, I did work for the government. I worked for the U.S. Army for 12 years. I was a Navy weapons contractor for a couple years as well. So like, I love America, but I also recognize, like, from my own experience, I served my country my entire life and I got thrown under the bus. So if they'll do that to me, some random person on the street who maybe doesn't agree with Islam, they'll 100% entrap them if they can. You saw that with the Whitmer guys, like you said, like we talked about before. They were just, these guys are nobodies. There's nothing. They'll just pick up anybody they can, or somebody who's down on their luck or whatever.
Louise, that's what we're trying to figure out, right? The question is, who does he work for, Louise? So
Louise. Is that Correspondent X?
Yeah.
Louise? Okay.
I think his name is Lewis. I'm just being facetious.
Oh, okay. I know a Louise, but
Luis Nicho Mo Matt. Okay, that's a very, very big name, but okay. But he says, but a lot of people just choose one of the names before saying the entire thing. Louis. There it is. Eliza. This is Louis. Yeah, I don't know. And the thing is with me, it's only about the truth. Whatever the truth is, if you've been watching for any amount of time, that's all I'm about. Whatever's real, whatever's true. And
was there a show called Louis?
There was a show.
Crazy?
No, there was a show. There was a song called Louis. There's Louis been a thing for quite a while. But no, I you know, and a lot of the in full disclosure, a lot of the people that you're talking about, I've interviewed, right? Ivan Raiklan on more than one occasion. I've interviewed, but in our line of work, there are times when it is an echo chamber, and I'm talking to someone who I simply agree with, and it's a conversation. And then there are times when I'm interviewing folks that I don't agree with, and it's still just a conversation, but it's a fact-finding mission. What I'm trying to call out, what I'm trying to raise awareness to, is the people that go stand next to folks just to get clout and then pretend like they didn't know who they were sitting with and partying with and eating with and drinking with and riding with, and then try to disown it after the fact, after you got the clout and the following and a little bit of the press. And that just kind of doesn't fly in our world. It doesn't.
Yeah.
You can't do both. You can't be both. You can't say, I hate the guy, but while I'm with him, I'm gonna love him while I'm there, and that kind of thing. You can just be an impartial reporter from the outside and just ask questions and not be a part of the whole thing. And that's and I think that we need to get back to that, especially in this space that we're in. It's very rare to see somebody that, you know, you're on a show and they're not just in an echo chamber, or it's just not combative. And just to have somebody just say, okay, here are the questions, what are the answers, and follow them where they may. That doesn't mean that I agree or disagree. I'm giving the platform to somebody to tell their story. But that doesn't mean I necessarily agree with their story. I can tell you what we've talked about. These are things that I've known about for some time, and I looked into myself as it relates to Jake. And I've heard for myself a lot of these things, same things you're telling me directly from other folks, and they line up. They line up very nicely, and they line up with his attitude and the fact that he switches his story every 10 minutes as far as who he is. And this is why I say, who does he work for? Because there's no way you're doing all this. You're not going around the country causing all this ruckus, causing all these problems, doing all these things to no end. You're doing them for somebody, because it's not him. At the end of the day, he's not going to get that Senate seat in a million years. Who the hell is going to vote for Jake Lang?
That was
if they
fake.
do.
That was fake to begin with. He was running for sheriff in New York before that. So I mean, it's just one thing after another. If we exclude Mossad, I think it's high probability it's DHS, considering the character of the protests and riots or whatever he's involved with.
He called Jake Lang a true American patriot. Bro, go drink the Kool-Aid somewhere else, please.
Are they being facetious or?
Yeah, no, he's not being facetious. And in fact, we offended him so bad he's leaving.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to lose your patronage.
Yeah, for real.
I mean, I'd be happy to watch your show from whatever FBI office you work at.
Yeah, exactly. And let me ask you a question. Here, we're coming up on 2 hours. I don't want to keep you much longer, or a little over 2 hours. But Fanoni, what's his story? What's that whole thing about?
Officer Fanone.
Yeah.
So people call him a crisis actor. I don't know if he is. I just know that he's a liar. And so, all right, the long and short of it is he was there that day. He was at this place that Lang was, the tunnel. He gets pulled into a crowd, crying bloody murder. Somebody taps him on the shoulder or grabs at him too rough. He starts screaming bloody murder like he just got shot.
He turned his body cam off.
He does. So yeah, later. So he claims he had a heart attack. I generally don't believe that. Somebody did try to, I guess, hit him with like a stun gun or something like that. Whatever. I'm not trying to downplay it, but at the same time, like you said, he was playing possum at one point. It's just clearly like messing with his camera. We've all seen this on the body.
But we've all said all J6ers are not created equal. There were some people there that were truly provocateurs, and then there were other people who just got caught up in the drama.
Sure. Yeah, no, 100%. I'm just saying, like, there's a lot of, and the reason I bring that up is he gets cleared by the medical officer that sees him later, says you're perfectly fine. And so all of that background is to say that I don't know why these officers in particular, but it was him, Harry Dunn, there's a handful of them that they're the ones who end up going and testifying in front of Congress when they're doing the fake Jan 6 hearings. Every single one of those officers gave false testimony. And so their stories are exaggerated. They're turned into like these celebrity cops. Harry Dunn, for instance, lies and says that he had to fight people off or whatever. The Oath Keepers protected him. And he was like white knuckling his rifle, like he was going to start shooting people. He's completely out of control. But then he admitted that they protected him in his initial 302s. I think it was the 3. And then, but then he perjures himself during their trial. And so Edwards, I think it was one is Edwards. She claims that she was knocked over. She was knocked out and laying in a puddle of blood. The guy who knocks the barrier over after Ray Epps talked to him, Ryan Sensel, to his credit, she kind of gets knocked over from like the back and forth with the fence. He immediately runs around it and picks her up off the ground and dusts her off, and she's fine. And then like a few minutes later, over by the scaffolding, a couple hundred yards down by the Capitol, they're having a conversation together. She's totally fine. Completely lied about that. All those officers that have become big names, every single one of them lied. And I'm not saying like they're the devil, but they're not heroes. They're all liars for whatever reason. I had heard that Fanone was a Republican before Jay said. I don't know if that's true. Or
I have
maybe,
no idea.
I know.
Political affiliation.
I might be thinking of. I might actually be thinking of the officer.
I mean, he's not
Sicknick. I think I'm talking. I think
Ryan Sicknick.
Yeah, Brian Sicknick. So, and even then, like, I know the guys they tried to accuse of murdering him, Julian Cater and George Tanios.
But he didn't die he wasn't murdered.
No. Yeah, he died the next day from health complications.
Yeah, exactly.
He had a stroke. So all the officers they tried to turn into martyrs just weren't. And I think it's not that I wish ill on them, but they're either all liars, or in the case of like Sicknick, he died from an unrelated reason. They tried to use that to say that there was a murder when there was not. It was only protesters who died. And then you have the suicides that
you have Jeff and his son too. The guy running for office in Arizona and his son that got caught up in this, and they try to say his son assaulted an officer, but the video that was actually shown cleared him, but they made him do 30 days in prison. And then I was told from them that they threatened the dad, told him essentially, shut up, stop talking about this. We're going to move your son from here out to the Arizona prison and put him into a place where he's not going to be so safe, and is a way to threaten the father and to stop talking, shut up.
They've tried to control the flow of information with everything, whether it's the officers, the defendants, even the symbolism, like Jacob Chansley, for instance.
What's the name you don't hear anymore?
Yeah, the Q shaman. He's either schizophrenic or he's an asset. I've lost my patience with him. I've reached out to him, and he promotes the most insane, disgusting stuff. But he was driven there by the Flynn Network. The guy named Chadwick.
That's what I wanted to ask you about. Yes, this is the story that I heard, and somehow or another it's connected to Vandersteel and Flynn, and this guy gets moved across the country, taken out of some asylum or someplace. Is this the one we're talking about? Same guy?
Q shaman, Jacob Chansley. He was in the DC jail. He was one of the first people there, brought there late January. And then he gets moved out like right before I would have had the chance to meet him. So he's there a couple of weeks, and he gets moved out, I think February 7th. And he gets put into a facility in Virginia because he wanted organic food. He wanted an organic diet that for his shaman beliefs. Meanwhile, everyone else gets to eat.
Eliza says, were they paid to lie, do you think? So she's asking if you think they're...
Honestly, I think some of them might have been threatened, but I don't think so. I think all of them were probably paid because keep in mind, Gwinolda, I can never pronounce this one guy's name. It starts with G. He lied because he was about to promote a book, and he was lying throughout like multiple trial testimonies. Officer Harry Dunn also put out a book that he blatantly lied in, and then he had like a failed political campaign in Maryland. He's trying to do it again, I think. And then they all have. I don't know. Did Fanon write a book too? They're all liars basically, and they've been going on media tours and stuff. So I guarantee you, they probably were like offered deals or whatever. Back to Chansley real quick. There's this guy named Chadwick. He's pretending to run for office in Michigan. He's Chansley's friend. He drove him to the Capitol on January 6th, and he's actually the relative of former CIA director Mike
Pompeo?
Mike Pompeo, yeah.
Really?
Yeah, weird connection, right? Just total coincidence.
That is a very, very strange connection because Mike Pompeo we've connected to Julian Assange and actually trying to have Julian Assange off while he was in the consulate. He put out a plan to actually have him poisoned while he was there. And then when the Epstein files broke, and Ian Carroll changed the game on how you can play with the Epstein files with that app.theweb.io. And I was like one of the first people in as soon as he did it. And I gotten into a lot of the files before. I don't know if they're doing maintenance on it or they shut it down. I'm not sure. But it basically, he connected in AI to all 4 million docs, and you could search it like Chat GPT and get all the answers. It was really cool. And there was emails going back and forth between Bannon and Epstein. And then it went to Pompeo and then to Rudy Giuliani. And the conversation kind of went like this. We want to replace Pence with Pompeo. We're going to get Pence out. And then once we do, we will enact the 25th Amendment, remove Trump, and Pompeo will be president. Then the email goes, was this shopped around? And he says, in the email says, yeah, we spoke to Rudy. Rudy is essentially okay with it as long as you don't involve Ivanka. And so that's kind of where it's left. So we got Steve Bannon, Mike Pompeo, Rudy Giuliani. These are people that are around Trump. You know, I don't know about, and let me just say this. I'm not testifying to what was in the files being true. I think a lot of the stuff in the files is corrupted, but we do know that Steve Bannon was playing like, reimagining the, he's trying to play PR for Epstein, basically redo his image and that sort of thing. This was after the conviction before he went back in. And so it kind of gives you a pause about the people that directly surrounded the president at the time.
Yeah. And the people who are ultimately the face of the dissident right in terms of media. Correct. And all that.
What's up, Rob?
And one more thing I'll say about Chadwick, besides Pompeo, he is, of course, he's part of the Flynn network with, if you look at all the people he associates with, Vandersteel or the Flynns and all that, but also who's going to a lot of these protests with Jake Lang, Chadwick.
Really?
Chadwick is one of the people, again, he's changed his appearance, like done like a makeover since he started his fake Michigan campaign. You could find him on Twitter. It's like Chadwick Ultra, but the Ultra is spelled with a V instead of a U. But then he has a second campaign. It's like Chadwick for Michigan or something like that. And not a conspiracy theory. I actually was like trolling him. I'd be like, hey, you're at this event, this political gathering in Michigan. It's like, hey, was your uncle Pompeo there? And it was actually kind of funny. I appreciate the humor he had about it. He shares a video of Pompeo sitting right next to him. I was like, oh wow, I'm saving that. So yeah, it's a little weird that the face of January. I mean, again, I don't wish ill on Chansley. I think he's obnoxious, and I think he's with most of the people, with a few exceptions. Like the lectern guy is cool, but most J6ers.
Adam has been cool. Adam has been with us to a few events. Adam is a stand-up guy.
He's got a big platform.
He's got a good foundation in what he believes, and he actually walks it out.
Yeah.
If you don't know, we're talking about the lectern guy, Adam. Like I said, stand-up guy. Nothing bad to say about this guy at all. He's been very, very good to us.
He's got a big platform. He builds lecterns and he donates the proceeds to charity to help other people. He uses his platform for good, whatever. And but he's unfortunately, he's kind of an exception with J6ers who have large accounts. Chansley's the norm, where it's like some guy with a massive platform. He didn't earn it. He got made famous after J6 because they made him the face of it. And then he basically promotes ooga booga nonsense. And, oh, by the way, look at all these interesting intelligence connections he has. Nobody wants to talk about that. And again, it's just like I said, they keep recycling. I think they recycle a lot of the assets they have. It's just weird. It's just weird. I don't, it's kind of like the Pam Hemphill thing. It's just like with these characters they just keep recycling the same actors. We're the same psyops and the same.
I mean, it's not. I know it sounds crazy, but it's actually not, because the guy that was at the Charlie Kirk assassination that jumped up immediately to take blame for what happened, the old guy whose pants fell down around his ankles, just happened to be at the Boston bombing. He happened to be at Ground Zero at 9/11. He happens to be at all these places where these terrible things take place. Yeah, and it's like we haven't heard his name since that day, but I mean that was a weird little tidbit of information that you just happen to be everywhere something happens. Strange.
Yeah, the everything man. And
so Blobby, if you want to, you can rewind it. If you go to, I don't know what page you're watching from, but if you go to @the Patriots Pray, you can watch. It's posted there. You can rewind. There's been a lot talked about here. I don't think that we've ever gone this in depth on Jake Lang, and I appreciate you taking the time too, because we just spoke yesterday and put this together last minute. And so, I mean, what else would you leave folks with, Jake Lang wise? What would you say?
I told you my friend Mike, J6er, Mike Curzio, he did, many years in a stint in state prison in Florida. And so he was a little more prepared for the time we did in DC than others. And so he always gave good advice. And there's a good saying he told me, and it's a true saying: believe none of what you hear and half of what you say. And with J6, obviously the thing I think most Americans realize, at the very least, it wasn't an insurrection. I think even more than that, no, it was a psyop, a Fedsurrection. And so it's just like, one of the things, again, I'm not content with the rollout of the pardons is that they just kind of moved on from that, but there was no inquiry. And you have this select committee going on right now that's not really doing anything. It's just kind of like a Republican version of what the Democrats did. It's just their way to get back at the Democrats without actually answering questions or holding anybody accountable. So what I'd say is, don't think that what happened on J6 ended with the pardons. There are bad actors, they still exist, and they're just going to keep engaging in bad behavior, not just to make J6ers look bad, not just to make Trump look bad, but to incite social tension, potentially a civil war. I don't know 100% all the details of who's pulling all the strings. I don't know all the details of what the end goal is, but what I know is that the results are bad, not just the optics, the results are bad, and the end game is going to be really bad if people don't stop falling for it.
Yeah, and that's exactly why I'm doing this, because I don't want people to keep falling for it. Yeah. This show essentially is a warning to the creators that are thinking about being the next guys to go out and film this guy and go along for the ride, because your life is going to be at risk. You're most likely going to be put on a list of some kind. But he's going to put you in a terrible situation, and it's just not worth it. You have to have some semblance of, doing what's right for the right reason. I think intentions mean so much, guys. Listen, if you got questions right now for this last part of the show, if you would go ahead and put them in the chat, and I'll ask the questions. If you got a question for Tim, put it in the chat. Throw a question mark in front of it so I know what your intention is, and I'll read the question, get you an answer. But yeah, I mean, this is the only time in the entire place, in the entire time I've been doing podcasting, is the last 5+ years. The only time I've ever had to retract an entire podcast was behind that guy. Right. And it was crazy because, I mean, I had many big creators reposting it, and it was inside of his jail cell. He's in his brown suit, and I'm like, I got this interview with a J6er from inside the prison cell. This is going to be cool. And turned out that it was all just a farce. And everything that he explained to me about who he was and what he believed and everything that had happened up until that point had just been one giant lie. And it hasn't stopped then. If anything, it's gotten worse now than it was then. Much worse now than then, because now he's fed by the ego that he must have, having the press follow him around and people following him around and anybody trying to get next to him because he's in the news or whatever. The reality of it is like I said, you're going to put yourself in danger. And
his two biggest allies have been the algorithm and the righteous indignation that good Americans have about problems they don't see getting solved. And so they intrinsically want to just jump on, unfortunately, someone who's the most incendiary person they could possibly be. But I'll just say, there's a reason I and many others who did time with him are not out there in the streets with him doing what he's doing, because we know the real deal behind him. You don't have to take my word for it. You can ask the Oath Keepers who we tried to entrap and incriminate. With the Declaration of Sedition document, when they get superseded in superseding indictment for seditious conspiracy, and he tries to get them to sign a document saying that they're proud seditionists who wanted to overthrow the government. You don't have to take it my word for it. You can ask Jeff McKellop, who we tried to get to be a general for his militia. You can ask all the veterans who did time in jail with him, all the husbands and fathers that were locked up with him, who couldn't.
He had a lot of big creators join that militia. Stu Peters was in that thing. There was a lot of big creators.
Mindy Robinson. Yeah.
And believe me, and Mindy is about 4 foot something and scary. Mindy is way bigger than she actually is, dude. Mindy is the type that would just take off on you. She's a tough one to do. She was there last year with us at CPAC.
I think I walked by her, not realizing it was her. She looks different. And if it was her, she looked very different in person than on a camera. And it was,
I had to do a couple of walks past too, to realize that it was her. And, I had a lot to say about, the Route 91, uncovering the cover up, which she did, was a great documentary. I mean, she deserves all the praise in the world for that. YouTube made it not searchable, so you have to literally go to her profile to see it, but you can see it on Rumble as well. But it's definitely worth a watch if you haven't seen.
Yeah, and I tried to warn her, just like I tried to warn so many people for years. I tried to warn her. I'm like, hey, this napalm thing, he's done this before. There was a J6 defendant named Christopher Finney. They found him through Lang's phone when he got picked up after J6. There was 3 militias. The first one, Militia Plot 1, was right around J6, where he is he's got these chat apps on his phone. That's how they find a defendant named Christopher Finney, because he was in Lang's phone on this militia, like a Telegram chat group sort of thing. The second one is when he tried to recruit me.
He tried to pull us into such a thing. Never went there, but I did get the link.
The Napalm Militia chat group, the third plot. The second one was in the jail when he tried to get the vets to overthrow the government. The third chat, or Napalm USA, there are screenshots that have been posted. I went in there under a pseudonym so I could scope it out, and it was all bots. All the accounts were fake. They were Indian names, so I don't know if he was paying Indians, because he pays people out of country to do stuff. So like Filipinos.
Oh, you're talking East Indian, not Native American.
No, yeah. I'm sorry, Bharat Indians,
Gotcha.
And so it was just complete fake, total psyop fake. at the very, even if you don't want to admit that it's a Fed op, it was 100% fake. There weren't real people on it. And he was trying to people sign up from every different state. And it's just like, what do you think that is?
So, Eliza has a question here. I put it on the screen for you, but it says NATO versus UN, thoughts on POTUS prep.
I don't know what that means.
I'm not sure what that means. If you can elaborate, I'll put it up there again. But the UN and NATO are pretty much, I mean, we're talking globalism here, right? So that's what we're trying to stand against. I at least do. I don't think that NATO has a reason to even exist today. I think that it's a waste of money. I don't think that Russia is a threat anymore. It's not the Soviet Union, which was the only reason that it was originally created, and the Soviet Union's gone. So what is there a NATO for?
I think that, even with the UN, as worthless as it seems, it is, I'm not a fan of it, and I don't think it needs to be around forever. But I would say I think conservatives or people on the right, because they're more nationalistic, maybe that's not the right term, patriots.
No, it's the perfect term, but they just skew what it means. I mean, I love my country, right?
Yeah.
Essentially.
So a lot of people, they don't like the idea of their nation being subordinated to an unelected bureaucracy that they have no say over, especially when it's usually tinted by socialistic, atheistic, or even just anti-natalist,
imperialistic, colonialistic, and just so many other,
everything they don't like and they think doesn't benefit their country, and it's used to subvert their own republic. But it's important.
Never forget, NATO has their own army, and some of them are ours, some of them are other people's, and they train, and you never know. I mean, what are they there for? I mean, this is it. For love them or hate them, Alex Jones talked about this a lot in the early 2000s, especially in the wake of 9/11. He was very adamant about some of this stuff, and you have to give it to him. When it came to predicting things, it was scary. It was scary how accurate some of his predictions were. He said before 9/11 happened that they were going to wreck planes into the buildings, and they were going to blame a guy named Osama bin Laden. Now I know this because I watched the Tucker interview, and in the Tucker interview, he's talking to him about, he's like, how in the hell could you possibly know any of that? And like, who in the world could call that?
Well, my sources in the intelligence.
No, you know what he said was like, he used the prophetic approach. Like, I just felt it. It just came on me like God spoke to me type of a thing. But it was scary accurate though. It was scary accurate.
I think there's a reason why it was so accurate, and I don't want to question the man's. I don't want to question his connection.
Oh,
to heaven.
No! Don't get me hit up by Alex Jones, bro.
All right, I'll hold off. I'll hold off on that for another time.
Don't get Alex on my case. I had a guy contact me. Turned out it wasn't a guy. But this person. Oh man, give me a second. I'll come up with the name. But Wynn Newen, and was through one of our PR folks and sent me her biography, and about how Alex Jones supposedly was in on the plot against himself at Sandy Hook and threw the case intentionally and all this kind of stuff. And I'm just like, this is the weirdest shit ever. So I go and I look at Wynn's podcast on Rumble, and within like 5 minutes, I figure out Wynn is a chick. And she's passing herself off as a guy, and not only that, a Christian guy, right? And so I'm like thoroughly confused at this point, and I take the evidence or supposed evidence, and I check it out, and none of it adds up. So I get a hold of Owen Schroyer, text Owen, and I'm just like, hey, I got this weirdo that's contacting me about you. I didn't have any way to get a hold of Alex, but I did have a way to get a hold of Owen. And Owen just texts me back. I don't know this, weirdo. And I was just like, listen, I'm not going to have this person on and platform him. However, if you guys want to come on the show, I won't even announce you, right? I won't like put it on like you guys are going to show up, and I'll let this person get into their shit, and I'll just bring you on to defend yourself. And they didn't go for it. Man, I was really hoping they were going to say yes.
So I can't corroborate whatever that person was going to say, but I promise I won't ruin everything for you. But one of the FBI agents that was at the Capitol was the uncle of Alex Jones's producer. And he was there with a CIA informant who had a satellite phone that I mentioned earlier. And that FBI agent is also what the original source was for the Sandy Hook stuff that Jones got in trouble for, because he repeated basically nonsense. This guy was apparently sitting in on a hearing over the Sandy Hook stuff, and then basically InfoWars just regurgitated it without, I guess, proper context or whatever, and turned it into a conspiracy. And that's why he got hit with that giant, all those lawsuits or whatever. All that originated from an FBI.
He had a hell of a one-liner in his defense when he was there. He's like, you have this conspiracy theory about people taking kids like me, like the Clintons, and that. I was like, oh shit. I mean, it was a hell of a one-liner, bro. I mean, you have to give it to the guy. It was a hell of a one-liner. And then in his Sandy Hook documentary, there's like a dad that's on this platform, and there's news cameras everywhere.
Oh, so he's like, and then he's like,
the dude just like laughing his ass off, and then like out of nowhere, they're like, action, and he's crying. I was like, what the hell? Like, play that back. And he just goes from hysterically laughing to somberly shedding tears in a fraction of a second, dude. Like, he should get an Oscar. Like, I never seen anyone able to do that.
Yeah, I've never, that when I saw that, I was just like, oof. I mean, I couldn't put myself in the mind of a person whose kid, but
it definitely wouldn't be that.
Yeah, no, it was a weird reaction. It was a weird reaction. So I mean, like I said, believe none of what you hear and half of what you see. I've learned that, and I'll leave Alex Jones alone for the rest of the show.
Yeah, no, InfoWars has been good to us. Harrison has had us on a few times, that sort of thing. I mean, it's like I said with anything, you don't believe everything everyone says. You agree with the things you can vet, and then the rest of it is entertainment at best.
In the old days, though, I will say I never really watched Alex Jones, but I loved the memes, the video edits people did of him going Super Saiyan after yelling. I don't know if you're a big Dragon Ball Z guy.
Yeah. I see
ripping his shirt in half and running through the hallways.
He's done some good things. I love that edit he did where he turns all of the CNN reporters and Biden into They Live characters.
Oh,
that was genius. Absolute genius.
Bill Clinton's a rapist. Infowars.com.
Yeah. And it's just like, this is a pandemic of the unvaccinated. It's like, okay. Yeah, we all know a little better now. Eric says, on a scale of 1 to 10 being best, how do you think Trump is doing in his second term? Good question.
I don't want to give a cop-out answer. There's so many different metrics to judge him on. Like the Iran thing, kind of, I'm not going to say it blindsided me because everybody knew it was going to happen. Everybody watched the buildup. But like, I wasn't expecting that in the first year. So when it happened, I don't know, the economy, January 6th, immigration, I like Trump. I voted for him 3 times. I did years in prison, and when I could have thrown him under the bus. I'm not going to bash him, but I think that some of the decisions are probably short-sighted. And I think ultimately I understand that he's a politician now and he has to do things that he thinks are going to advance his agenda. Again, my big thing, like, I'm a J6er, I'm jaded and I'm stuck in a context I didn't choose. And for me, the thing that always, like, again, is like the overarching thing is not even just restitution and getting paid for, being made whole after losing our lives and reputations. The thing
was
that
there anything is what's the word I'm looking for, where they pay you guys back? What do they call
restitution?
That?
Restitution,
not restitution.
Reparations.
Reparations. I'm sorry. Yeah, reparations.
No, so the Ashley Babbitt's family, I think they sued for like $30 million. They ended up settling for $5 million, which seems grossly low.
That does seem grossly low.
But I think it was negotiated for a while. I don't know why they settled on that. I've never really asked the Babbitt family. It's not my business. I don't really want to ask.
Somebody on here about a year ago sent me videos trying to say that it was a fake shooting, and I was like, bro, come on. Is everything fake? Is nothing real?
I know people personally who've said that in the past. I don't know if they still believe it. And
it's something about the angle of the shot and where he was at versus where she was and where she got hit and how it couldn't have been the way that they said. So and I tried looking at it 1,000 times and I couldn't figure out what they were talking about because I seen the shot, I seen the video, I seen cell phone video of it. So
yeah, and
that's not manipulated. It's cell phone video.
I know a defendant who was actually literally right there. He picked her body up and got blood on his hands from her. So, I mean, I know I've gotten in debates with defendants about it. And I'm like, it's real blood. It's coming out of, and they're arguing about the angle of her neck or the back where the blood's coming out. I look, I think that she was really shot. I think that she died. I know a guy, again, Mike Curgio. He saw.
Sorry, I don't want to leave Eric hanging. So give me a number 1 to 10. He's.
Oh Jesus. I don't know, 6 or 7. I don't know how to judge it.
That's fair. That's fair.
The alternative, again, even if you're not happy with the war or the economy, the alternative would have been open borders. I was in prison in 2023, and I'm sitting there watching Fox News.
Oh, you guys would have all still been in prison. You guys all would have still been in prison. You guys would have gotten massive sentences.
In fact, I got out.
Was not pardoning you.
No, I got out. My sentence was done by the time he got elected, but my friends would have been doing 8 years, 10 years, 12 years, or they would have come back after us because I know they were trying to prosecute me again for the same charge. Because I remember my conviction got overturned because the Supreme Court. My lawyer was trying to get them to agree to vacate my sentence, and they're like, no, because we want to charge him for the 1512 charge again under a different theory. So there's that. But again, look, I'm stuck in this context, but I still love my country. Like I was watching trains come into the country from Mexico with hundreds or thousands of people hanging onto them, and they're just letting them in. It was like it was like Rome getting with the Goths.
They were flying them over the border to cut down on the amount of border crossings. Like the border crossings are down. That's because you're flying them over, dude. That's they haven't stopped coming. They just coming via the damn airplanes that you're taking down to South America and flying them up in.
Or you lie and you say a deportation is just when you don't let them in at a port of entry or something like that. Just flubbing the numbers. No, we saw how it was happening, and I saw it every day. And I'm in prison just there, and I'm like, Christ, I don't know when my sentence is done. I don't know if I'm going to have a country to go back to. That was a real fear of mine.
Well, it still should be. I mean, listen, we have so many people that got into this country from all over the world, not just Mexico. It's not just South America. We had people that were on the terror watch list walk across the border, look reporters in the eye and say, you don't know who I am now, but you will. And then calmly walk away because they were that unafraid and they're still in the country.
Yeah. So, and look, again, like, I'm not saying you have to support NATO or the American empire, but like even the withdrawal from Afghanistan for like when I was locked up, like a third of the guys with me were veterans. When we saw this humiliation, it was like watching the fall of Saigon. That was disturbing and disgusting to watch.
USA tells you, I'm sorry you went through that, went through what you went through. Should have never happened. That's right.
I agree.
Never happened.
I agree. Thank you. I don't disavow. I avow.
Do you feel at all vindicated knowing that the numbers are now starting to come out? The 315,000 votes in Atlanta, the other improprieties that are now being exposed. Finally, the 99 there, I think there was like in 4 states, there was 2 of them were 99% probability for Trump to win. The other ones were 97 probability for Trump to win. And the probability of Biden winning all 4 states was 11 million to 1. And yet that's exactly what occurred. So basically all of the uncounted votes that were there in those states would have all had to have been about 100% for Biden after they closed polls that night, which is people are saying a statistical impossibility. and the 315,000 votes that came up in Atlanta, and they didn't deny it. They just apologized and said, we're sorry.
You remember what I said like before, like you have that gut feeling for a reason. We all saw what we saw election night and the day after, and then the weeks that followed. There was clearly a cover up, and they clearly just wanted people to just go along with it. And I think that what happened on J6, well, one, we were justified in being there because every citizen that had questions had a right to have their voice be heard. But after that as well, the Fedsurrection aspect of it, that was their way of using one psyop to cover up another. You know, and I wanted them to investigate the result. I didn't want to interrupt the proceeding. Why would I do that? We wanted them to analyze the votes and do a recount. Like, why would we interrupt?
Do you think there'll be accountability? I mean, if anyone in the world would want accountability, I would think it would be the people who lost their freedoms behind fighting for this.
It depends on how we define accountability, but broadly,
what would you like to see? What would you like to see? If you had the easy button right now, what would be your resolution?
I guess it would be, four main things. One, I would like, to the best of their ability, I'd like the administration to make J6 defendants whole. Restitution, and honestly, they should vacate all the convictions, not just the pardons, but vacate the convictions, especially for those. A lot of people have died since, and they deserve to have their names cleared. Two, I want the truth out. It's not good enough to just say, well, we may have had a couple hundred federal agents or informants or whatever. It's like, I want their names. They ruined our lives, and they also they sabotaged the entire country. Like, it wasn't just a crime against Tim Hale. It was a crime against not just President Trump. It was a crime against America. They stole an election, and then they staged a color revolution to cover it up. That's more treasonous or seditious than any J6er. Third, I would like a church committee style hearing in Congress, where, again, it's Congress. You can't expect, the truth through committee all the time, but things like Mockingbird and MK Ultra stuff, that stuff started coming out in congressional investigations and declassifications and stuff.
We have a host, Lynn Scott Hagerman, on this network, who was a victim of MK Ultra. Stories will curl your hair. It's crazy.
And I can believe it's still happening. Frankly, I think.
I know. Matter of fact, I know it is, because it went from Ultra to Often, and then now it has another name. Now even then there were a dozen. It was like MK Ultra, MK Often, MK Naomi, MK, like a bunch of different programs and sub programs and all that. And funny how all that came to light, because they said that it wasn't real. And I guess somebody forgot to clean out a desk in an abandoned building that they had a base on. And then they go in there and they find this folder, and it's right there in the folder. Yep. And now everyone knows that it's a legitimate thing.
And we also know from investigations that, like, from the actual reports, we know a lot of it was still destroyed anyway, like even before that. So, like, imagine what we don't know. And then I guess the fourth thing would just be institutional reform, because I'm not an anarchist. I'm not an anarchist like Lang, but I'm I guess a reformist. I don't know. I don't think all these 3-letter agencies should exist, and I think that if they weren't born into corruption, they are saturated with it, and there's no way to reform an inherently.
This is how I felt. How about Department of Homeland Security? This is exactly, because we have an FBI. We have it. It's here already.
And it's also like a second DOD as well. It's like,
the FBI, if they would have just done their jobs with the tips that they had received prior 9/11, then we wouldn't be suffering with a bigger branch of government that we need to fund again right now. We also wouldn't have what we call today the TSA. And a lot of people in this country I don't know. I mean, it depends on the age of the audience, but I remember just walking my mom to the damn plane gate. And of course you still had to get checked going through, and you put your bags through and all the same stuff, but it wasn't what it is today. And the Real ID Act wasn't around, and that was all cooked up by Ashcroft, and they tried to push it down our throats like 7 different times since Bush was in office. And even still to this day, people are not buying into the Real ID, and they don't like the idea.
No, I mean, DHS and the Patriot Act, it basically created the standard that all all Americans are suspects first and citizens second. And again, like I like ICE. I agree with the mission of it, but like you see how DHS just became a department to become a grab bag for all these agencies that nobody paid attention
They're a
to.
symbiote. No matter where they go, they just go in and they take over and they answer only to the president.
Yeah, and they've created a system that obfuscates, like, let's say ICE is good, but maybe TSA is bad, and then like DHS has these programs to, like, not for nothing, like Patriot Fronts or the FBI's PATCOM program. Like I think DHS and the FBI work together to do these staged events and stuff. And you see what, like with Lang, where it's just like a bunch of provocateurs, literally ICE agents right here, and then some ridiculous leftist right here who's in the middle, the provocateur. And it's just like, I think they do like drag queen story hour. You'll have some ridiculous degenerate thing over here, and then you'll have some far right reactionary counter protester here. You get them in here, social conflict breaks out, and then these agents over here are just monitoring everything, or you got people, independent journalists recording everything. It's just a big system that justifies itself.
Seems to me that the left doesn't miss a chance to protest anything, right? No. I mean, they'll hop on a plane, fly across country to get a selfie at the thing, and I mean, that's what they do. They protest and they get paid for it, right? So their protests largely are not organic, but it seems to me, at least from the outside looking in, like they have been trying for years to provoke the right to go out and face them, and it's like, we're not taking the bait. And then here comes Jake Lang, right? And he's out there, and now all of a sudden you see people actually fighting in the streets and doing these things where prior to him there wasn't a whole lot of that. And what are the chances are that that's exactly what he's there for?
I think that is what it is. And it's like, again, I'm an independent. I ran a union. I in another time I might have been considered left wing, because, you know, unions are largely, Feds used to infiltrate and persecute unions. They persecuted the civil rights movement. They persecuted the anti-war movement back in the Nam era. The left always used to get infiltrated by feds. And so it's just like, this should be a bipartisan thing. Nobody should like the idea that feds are entrapping American citizens or spying on them. Constitutionally protected behavior. But what they do is exactly right. They turn, here's what I always point out. The Ku Klux Klan and the civil rights movement both had FBI informants inside. It's just like, you can't get more, like, I don't know, more diametrically opposed things than those two things, but yet they find a way to co-opt both sides of everything. There's no organic movement they won't infiltrate. And so, with the right or whatever, it's just like, you take like Americans have, if they have genuine, sincere fears about excesses from immigration or excesses about terrorism or like Islam or whatever, or beliefs about this or that, it doesn't matter, because then you get some kook like Lang who's going to come by and completely undermine their genuine concerns.
He just created a new Lang term, Ku Klux Lang. I don't know if you realize you did it, if it was just like a Freudian slip or whatever.
I meant to say kook like Lang, but Ku Klux Lang.
I think I'm going to run with that one. Ku Klux Lang.
Patent it. Yeah, that's funny.
But no, I think that the moment that head-to-head collision happens, and it's not that I don't think it's going to happen. I think most people realize that a civil war in this country has already began. Whether or not it's kinetic or not, it depends on the instance. But there's definitely a fight going on in this country for the heart and soul of this country, for the nation's identity. And the left is just giving away the American dream to people that just got here. Housing projects are immediately lived in by immigrants. In Chicago, they earmarked homes for the indigenous folks that live in Chicago. And these infiltrators come into our country and get $3,000-$4,000 a month in SNAP benefits, and they just give them the houses, and the people that are here already are left to wait. Veterans are asked to vacate in New York, given a 5-day vacay notice, because an NGO is going to pay the hotel $180 a night versus the $90 the government was paying. It just so happened that the NGO that paid the $180 was also funded by the same government. So it tried to make it look like, well, it wasn't us, but it absolutely was. And it's the most shameful thing ever. But I believe wholeheartedly, when that conflict does occur, that is when you'll be told your security is more important than your liberty. And in order for you to be safe, you have to lose some of your securities, which has been the way of this country for as long as I can remember. This is why we have DHS. This is why we have TSA. This is why we have a lot of the things we have, because tragedies happen and the government capitalizes on them, and they'll tell you this is for your safety, right? But you were very safe inside of a prison cell, but it wasn't very nice to be there, right? Yeah. So those who sacrifice their liberty for security, as the saying goes, deserve neither.
And they'll lose both.
And they'll lose both. So with that, I've kept you long enough. Is there anything else you want to say before we get out of here? Parting words. Tell people where they can find you.
Well, first, thank you for having me on, brother. It's Tim Hale. You can find me on Twitter or X. If you just type my name in, Tim Hale, or Tim Hale Criminally Funny J6er, my account should pop up. My @ is Lewis of Monmouth. Nobody's going to remember that or spell it right. So just type in Tim Hale and you'll find me. And I appreciate the opportunity to come on here and talk about this, as I am the proud 50 Cent to Lang's Diddy.
Well, at least you gave him Diddy. You could have given him Ja Rule. I mean, it could have been even worse, right?
Isn't that interesting though? People have been saying stuff about Diddy just like Cosby for years, and it gets ignored, and then finally everybody acts surprised when it all comes out. And it's just like, I've been saying it for years.
No, I don't think anybody was surprised. See, the one thing that was different about 50 and all of that was that he was talking about it in radio interviews quite often. Henchmen, Diddy, all the things that nobody else wanted to say. 50 was saying in interviews. I remember them hushing him at the Breakfast Club. He was in an interview at the Breakfast Club with Charlemagne and all that. And he just goes in and starts saying about how much somebody did or whatever. And they're like, shh, don't. But he didn't give a shit. He just did it. And turned out it was true. I'll say this, the Bill Cosby thing, that was a bit of a surprise because, as you know, Bill Cosby was trying to buy NBC at the time. The original victim in that case had already gone to court and had already been beaten in court and proven to be a liar. But right before this purchase of NBC goes through, this Me Too movement kind of kicks in. Yeah. And all of these like 30 victims that never had a court case for any reason at all in the world, that just came out of the woodwork. Then next thing you know, Bill Cosby was in prison. Michael Jackson was buying Sony records, and little propofol later, and that's not happening now. It's also very funny. I'm not saying that that's what happened. I'm just saying it's very funny. That's all I'm saying. But yeah, he doesn't swing that way. No, he doesn't. Matter of fact, there's a story of Diddy saying he wanted to take 50 Cent shopping at one point, and 50's like, dude, I don't need you to buy my clothes. A very funny story. But guys, thank you so much for joining Tim and I today. I hope that we were able to shed a little light on this guy, Jake Lang, and who he really is, and kind of enlighten you guys as to why, don't fall for it. Just don't fall for it. It's not what you think it is. Go ahead.
When Jake Lang breaks out the baby oil, you run. That's all I'm going to say.
Well, you shared a cell with him. I don't know.
Not long enough. Thankfully.
All right, guys. Well, thank you for joining us today on the Patriots Prayer. And if you're not following, please do go to @the Patriots Pray on X, TikTok, and everywhere. It's the same everywhere. Check us out at thepatriotsprayer.com. Thank you so much for watching. I think we had 4280 on X in here, so pretty big crowd. Guys, we appreciate it so much. And as usual, the silent majority, you need to stop being silent and stand your ground. Evil never retreats willingly. You must always beat it back. It's got to be intentional. It takes us all. So, guys, thank you so much, and we'll see you soon. Have a great one.
My people of this country, and we're under attack. They ban us, they cancel us for speaking the facts. If you man enough.
This is the Patriots Prayer Podcast. It's a tremendous show, one of the greatest shows in the history of the world.
This is Bryson Gray, and you are watching the Patriots Prayer.
PPN, you're doing the right thing.
On the Patriots Prayer Network. Thank you all.
PPN on your bumper.
I'm Tom McDonald. This is the Patriot Prayers Network. Check it out. Lots of good TV. Lots of cool people. Tune in. Keep it locked.
Know where I stand. I'm the white boy with the middle fingers in the air, dog. We don't give a what. 100 white boys gonna hold me down anywhere, dog. We think that you suck. My Patriots the craziest. They ain't afraid of breaking fists on faces. If you really wanna taste of this, no safety. if the same mistake and spray the clip, I pray you miss, cause if you don't, they gon' go wacko. Automatic gun smoke like tobacco. Never hit a lady, but it's pretty hard to tell if you're a girl or a they, them, there's these, that, those. I ain't never gonna take a knee for the anthem. Smack them, I don't give a damn, can't stand them. Gang full of randoms, fan with a handgun. Run up in your mansion, leave it all abandoned. I was raised to be brave, to the grave. United States, we love the country that they've been corrupting. Go woke and go broker if you ain't obeyed. My people love this country and we're under attack. They banned us, they cancel us for speaking the facts. If you man enough, come stand with us, take USA back. And every time we pull up, all you're gonna see is American flag.